And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. As you can probably tell from the person on the screen, this is going to be a fun live. And I found out a couple things about my channel is I have damn near an obligation. When I see somebody who is a man who is just primed and ready to be on some good rants, I feel I have an obligation to give that person a soapbox and to give him a platform so we could hear those rants. And there is nobody in this hobby that can do that better than that other person that you're looking at on the screen, Mr. Josh, the old card shop, one of my absolute favorite people in this hobby. I know this is going to be a great live. But Josh, before we get into the absolute ridiculousness that is going to be the rants of this live tonight, buddy, thanks for coming on the channel. How you been doing? How's everything been going for you?
Dude, it's been a really crazy week. It really has. And I honestly, today has, after everything with the One Ring being pulled and the excitement with that and the culmination and just the climax that happened with like everyone being excited and chasing and the boxes going up and up, and then finally they're just like, oh, the ring got pulled and it's smashed down to like 350 again, and or whatever, 375, whatever it is. It's like after all that, I had to take a breath. I could finally, I feel like, breathe without having the clog of the hype in the air just choking me down. So
Yeah.
it feels good. It felt good because I had some fun conversations with some people in Discord. And as always, I'm always like, I don't know, I'm like an open book. Like my online persona, I don't know if it's like people know this about me, but like how I am online is exactly how I am in real life.
Oh,
So I don't know if
100%.
that's like a realization to some people or if that's different, but it's just I came to a realization when talking to some people today, and it was interesting. And I think I'd come across maybe as a little bit negative sometimes, I realized. And I don't know. I think I should talk a little bit and maybe at least talk about the One Ring and talk about magic. And maybe I want to maybe talk about a little bit of my history and maybe walk it back a little bit because I don't want to come across as negative, man.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for this hobby. Like that's what today more than anything has sort of made me realize is being a part of this. Like after you hit me up and you're like, yo, man, we should go live. You seem like a man who wants to rant. I was like, man, this is just, I feel so thankful to be a part of a hobby like this where my friends and I can kind of go live, talk about something, be passionate, be excited,
Oh,
and
yeah.
really kind of break down how we feel. And so, yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate you. And I do think that whoever, I won't shout out who it was we were talking in Discord, but shout out to Professor Oak's Discord. Definitely join in. If you want to see what the fun is, go to that Discord. But
Yeah.
that person is right. I think I come across a little negative sometimes about things. So first and foremost, I don't want this to come across as negative today. Whatever is being said, because I freaking love this hobby. And I think you could probably say the same, right? I think
Oh, yeah. No, I
I hear
think
you
that
rant sometimes, but I know you love the hobby. So,
no, I think that passion is deserved in this hobby and is needed. And I don't really ever think of you as coming off as bullish. I can see how some people could take those like takes, but I've always felt because I've talked to you now so many times in the past. If you guys are not familiar with Josh, there is an entire live I have with him on my channel. Just search old lives, type in the old card shop, he'll pop up and you'll get a little bit more of his backstory. But I've always felt you were very bullish and especially with what you were doing. And the reason why I always thought you were bullish is you were doing whatnot. You've moved away from that platform. We could talk about that a little bit if you want, but at the time you were open and modern. You were seeing how much hype all these people. You were honestly one of the most bullish people I've known. But I think the problem is you're very similar to me, is you like to give those long, thorough answers. And when you work through those long, thorough answers, you cover so many bases that you can't just always be that hype dog all the time by the end of it.
I
And
wish I could sometimes, bro. I really wish I could. It'd be a
yeah,
lot easier in some cases, but yeah, I'm a talker. It really what it comes down to is definitely like the reason I love your channel and the reason I love talking to you, man, it's because you're a talker. Like
yeah.
there are not many people in this hobby that I feel like can out talk me, but you're one of them. So I
I don't know
really
about that.
appreciate
I'm
it.
pretty intimidated sitting across from you, Josh. I think you could out talk them all. But real quick before we keep going, Rock Sandy, we appreciate the super chat, man. He said, "Hope you're doing well, PK." I'm doing well, man. Family's doing well. But all right, Josh, let's get into a little bit more of the nitty and gritty of tonight. And the big topic on a lot of people's minds right now is that one of one ring card. And the one of one ring card is there's a lot that encompasses that. It's obviously the magic, the one of one. Should that person have graded it with PSA? Should they went Beckett? Should they went CGC? It got a 9. What can that mean? But more importantly, and the overall conversation we could have is talking about serialized cards too. Are serialized cards a positive? Are they a negative? Are they a neutral? And then obviously, because this is a Pokemon channel, we'll bring it into the Pokemon conversation of could we ever expect to see serialized cards in Pokemon? And if we did, what would be the implications of that and what could prices be and all this stuff? But first, I'm just going to let you take it off. So you saw the one of one ring card posted today that it was pulled, graded by PSA. I want to know initial reaction when you saw that card for the first time.
Okay, I woke up like I usually do, like 8:30 or so in the morning. I wake up pretty early these days. I don't know about you, but I've become much more of an early riser. I know you with the newborn, your schedule is way different, but like,
Yeah.
having a newborn aside, my schedule is pretty regular, and I like to wake up pretty early. So I woke up right away at like 8:30, check my socials, and of course it was already, oh, it just got pulled, everyone talking about it. And so my initial reaction was, holy crap, okay, is this real? Because we'd already seen this. So after the initial like looking at who posted, DA Card World, looking at the PSA certification, looking at the, making sure that was all legit, it looked real. I could then allow myself to really process it. And I thought, holy crap,
Yeah.
did the dude sell it? Because the number one thing on my mind was like, holy crap, that's $2 million. Or is it? Because $2 million, heck, $1 million, I got to thinking, is a lot of money, dude. That's a lot of money. Like,
Yeah.
what the Pokemon, the most expensive card ever sold? Because I woke up my fiance. I was like, hey, the One Ring, it got pulled. And she's like, huh, what? And I was like, yeah, it got pulled. The One Ring, the Lord of the Rings thing. And she's like, oh, cool. And she went back to bed. But I was like thinking, like, $1 million? That's so much money. And I immediately went on my phone. What do you think the most expensive Lord of the Rings replica, the most expensive Lord of the Rings thing out there that exists would be? Like, what is your mind immediately?
So I instantly go to Gandalf's staff. Like
Wow.
I think that's super iconic, or maybe like an actual ring, but Gandalf staff is where I go. That's immediately where I think.
You're really spot on because okay, for $1 million, you could get the top 8 most valuable Lord of the Rings props. So your mind went to the place that my mind went was what would be the most expensive if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, like what is the top of the mountain, the coolest thing that you could possibly own? It'd be like
Thou shalt not pass, man. That's it.
yeah, so that you actually, it's funny you say that. That's the most expensive on record Lord of the Rings prop, though. I went and looked up all this stuff. So before the stream, I wrote down a top 8 list of the most expensive Lord of the Rings items you could possibly own because I had to know, man. I had to put things into perspective because I know it doesn't work this way. Shout out to the homie Dan. He always says you can't put price equivalencies and look at it like, well, if this is this much, then this is this much. What would you rather have? But I kind of look at things that way. So like if I'm the buyer of the Lord of the Rings, one of one ring, I'm probably a huge Lord of the Rings fan. So like for the amount of money that like you're gonna ask for that ring or have to pay to get it, what could you have? Here's what you could have, PK. You're really
I want to also know and then I'm thinking like if there's like a Tolkien handwritten manuscript from when he wrote the original one, like with his blood, sweat, and tears into it, like the original copy. If that exists, I can see that fetching million plus easy. Like there's a lot of Lord of the Ring fans would love that original manuscript, like whatever.
I didn't look that up, and it didn't say the internet when I put in like most expensive Lord of the Rings like things or items sold. That didn't per se come up, but I feel like that's so unique and so niche. It would have sold on like a weird auction house or a private sale. That wouldn't kind of come up. So that I feel like could be a wild card. But here's a list that I came up of things that I just want to list off for the people watching at home, your viewing pleasure. You could own for simply $1 million, a little bit more than $1 million. We're not talking about $2 million here. First of all, good job, BK. Gandalf's staff, that's going to run you down about $325,000. And that's the most expensive item on the list. So going down the list, you could get Legolas's bow, that's 310K. Gimli's axe, 185K. Sting, if you wanted Sting, that cost you a cool $161,000. Aragorn's sword, how about that? 62,000. No big deal. Oh, what about the Saruman staff? The evil Saruman, his staff. It's only 50K. Sauron's helmet, the big helmet he wore in the first scene of Lord of the Rings, that big thing, that cost you 41,000. And then to the least expensive thing on the list, the least, I think honestly one of the coolest things on the list, the shards of Narsil. The sword, the hilt, and the shards, and the blanket. That sold for 25,000. So that all adds up to about $1 million. So yeah, so initial reaction, $2 million is a lot of money. Guess what? The dude hasn't taken the $2 million offer. What do you think about that, dude? What do you think about that?
Delusions of listen, I'm on a different playing field for a lot of this, is because I think that dude not only had a winning lotto ticket at the end of the rainbow, but he also had a winning lotto ticket running up. All these products releasing, all these collection boxes, dude could have cornered the market knowing that it would never get pulled. Because if you're going to go real hard into Lord of the Ring collection boxes, your answer to me is going to be like, PK, I'm not going to go real hard into these Lord of the Ring boxes are selling at $450, $490. If it gets pulled, they're going to drop down sub 350, which is exactly what happened. You're spot on. You're a genius. But if you had that information that you knew for a fact it was never going to get pulled, sky's the limit, man. That will always be one of the now greatest what ifs in this hobby. The what if that guy did that, or what if it never got pulled? What could those things have done? That's where I would have been.
I apologize to if the person who pulled the ring is watching. Fool of a toque. Fool of a toque. That is exactly what I think about, because I 100% agree with you. Without even thinking about market manipulation, the guy could have just taken the offer for Beckett's grading, whatever they're going to give him, the flying it out, $1,000 credit, booster boxes, etc., and then do the bounty on it for 2 million and collect on that, which I think would be a perfectly reasonable thing. What you are saying would be what the most diabolical and the smartest thing to do would be. And it just seems like the most reasonable, because if you have that information, why wouldn't you do it? Okay. But anyway, after that, after hearing that and coming to that realization and having that conversation in Discord and realizing okay, maybe I come across a little bit negative at times because of this, I really did take a look at this set, and it came to me that the most exciting part for me with this Lord of the Rings set is now about to unfold, because it's not necessarily, the question for me wasn't what was going to happen before it got pulled. I knew it was just going to keep going up until it got pulled, and it was going to be dumb and ridiculous, and I was going to have all these things to say about it, blah blah blah. But I feel like now I can feel out what the set is actually going to be like. Because look, man, I'm a Magic the Gathering player. I freaking love this stuff. I told someone that I wasn't a collector in the Discord earlier, and that may have been a little bit of a lie, because I don't collect very normal things, but I do collect certain things. And as I was going through some of the motions, I did find some of my collection pieces that I really enjoy. I don't know, did you read this stuff and get these sent to you when you were a kid? Inquest, top deck, or any of these kind of items? So a lot of this stuff.
Oh, it's not top deck, but it's
that one. I love it. Yes, that one's a good one. Doesn't that have a W stamp in it? Yeah, the Pikachu, right?
Yeah, the W stamp Pikachu. Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah, that's one I don't have, because I had it once upon a time, but I opened it a long time ago. And
yeah, so I never had top deck, but Game Informer. Game Informer was what I had as a kid.
Yeah, so I actually do collect some things, and when I was a kid, I loved getting these price guides in.
Oh wow, that I like that a lot.
Yeah, this is the probably one of the cooler ones that I've had. I've had rock Pokemon breathing down my neck to try to get this from me for, better part of a year now though. This is one that I got when I was a kid. I was
Dude, that's
subscribed to
that's
about three or
awesome.
four of these magazines for a long time. So like I really like that kind of stuff. So I guess I lied. I do collect some things, but like the reason I bring that up is because like I love Magic the Gathering, PK. I really love Magic the Gathering. But I really, really, really don't love what's going on in the whole serialized market. So like now that the One Ring's gone, I'm really excited to see like what's going to happen with the set. I have seen initially it's dropped down to like 350, 375, which seems about like normal. I think distributor cost on something like that is like two in the high 200s, like between 260 and like 300 depending. So like I feel like realistically it's still in a very healthy place. Um, so I'm curious to see what happens. But yeah, I love Magic, man. So like I don't like what's happening with Serialized. And the last thing I want to see is them to consider this a success and push forward and keep doing it more and get more success with it. And then Pokemon see that and
Mm,
kind of want to get a piece of that pie, and that's where I think it really should matter to a lot of people. Because like, yeah, whatever, a one of one ring that's just in one time Magic does it. That's not, how is that any issue to our hobby? But like it could be a problem for the hobby going forward. And like, I mean, with reprints, like Evolving Skies reprints just looming, what that's the biggest newest rumor mill that you hear right now is like, oh, Evolving Skies might be getting a reprint for like ETBs. If there was a serialized set in Pokemon with serialized cards, there would never, ever be a reprint
no.
situation. You wouldn't get reprints. And
Yep.
that's a huge problem. That's like a problem that I don't think we'd be able to work out with Pokemon quite so quickly. So we should count our lucky stars it hasn't gotten to that point yet, because we'd be seeing $1,000 Evolving Skies booster boxes, not $400 boxes.
Yeah, I think the problem is when a company gets to that point where they have to do serialized, I think they have to do it out of a need and not out of a want. And my fear is if Pokemon ever gets to the point where they serialized cards are going to be the only thing to say Pokemon, only thing to be able to, revitalize it and get all this hype back in, it's going to be because of that need factor. They're going to need to do it. And if they don't need to do it, please, Pokemon, if you're out there listening, don't do it. And if we get to that point where they need to do it, that means that it's been a rough road for a couple years before that happens. Oh
There's
yeah,
a
there you
point in
go.
everything that you can overprint. I was subscribed to more than just Pokemon. I was always a bit of a collector of obscure things. And so like it's funny flipping through this thing too, because like you see some of the prices that they quote on some of these Beanie Babies, like 40, $50, $100, 70, $75.
How much is that Garcia bear in that magazine, you
Oh,
know?
you want to know what the Garcia? I think I have a Garcia somewhere around here too. That's probably, it's gonna say it's at least like 50, $100.
Yeah, but it's no, but you're right. And but I just hope we never get to that point in Pokemon. I know a lot of people want it, but I don't know. I don't honestly know why they want it because the chances of pulling a one of one, like we saw what happened with, Lord of the Rings. Like, first of all, it's next to impossible. And I heard somebody on some live stream, I forget which one, but they talked about like, the potentials of if you did have that one of one chase, the people you would pull into this hobby, you wouldn't pull in like fans anymore. You would pull into investors, like everything that people hated about Pokemon in 2020. I promise you, if you get that chase, it will be back. Just like for Magic the Gathering, you know how many people I know bought Lord of the Rings collector boosters because they want to pull that ring and they had no like affiliation with Magic before that ever released. And some people I knew bought that as their first ever Magic product. So put that in this perspective. Their first ever Magic product was a $350+ product. If you have that in Pokemon, scary.
That was one of the things that caused me to, I think, come across the way that I did for the last couple of weeks about Magic and the whole hobby and the sort of gambling element that like the reason I stepped away from like Whatnot and everything the way that I did was because I really didn't like to see that like uptick of like gamblers mentality and like just like building on the hype and really taking advantage of people who didn't know better of certain things, like new people. Like you said, the first experience with Magic the Gathering is potentially a 350, and that's if they're lucky.
Yeah.
And let's be real, people were paying closer to $400 to $500 for most of these boxes. And I mean, it's just to see that, it was making me very uncomfortable, because when that is the entry point for the hobby for you, and you get burned after the fact, you don't burn it, it just feels, I don't know, how can you not feel like after you open up one of those boxes, 500 is $500 not a lot of money? PK, am I out of touch? Like,
Dude, it's a lot of money. It's
is that
amazing how deep people's pockets in this hobby keep seeming to go. And it's just like, we're going to talk about the celebrations UPCs, but like what went on with PokemonCenter.com and releasing that Squirtle promo. And trust me, everybody in the chat, we're going to get to that. But it just shows you how deep people's pockets are. It's like, do you want to buy 151 UPCs off Pokemon Center? The answer is probably no. You want to see what the market does. But then they release a Squirtle card with it, and you're like, you know what? You son of a bitch, I'm back in. Let's
a
get
little bit? I want a little bit now. Yeah.
It's crazy.
That Squirtle, I wonder if that Squirtle is going to get the Cosmos Hollow treatment, or if it's going to get the regular Hollow treatment that they do sometimes. Because if it gets Cosmos Hollow, good night. But that's sort of reserved for the blister packs, right? They only do those for blister, I think.
Yeah, so there's a couple good Cosmos Hollows, and like some of the theme decks too. A lot of times get those good Cosmos Hollow patterns. And
oh, I mean the silver border Cosmos Hollow they started doing. Is that something?
Okay.
I feel like not a lot of people
Collection boxes have them.
Yeah. Okay. So which collection box? Because
So
like I
there
know
was
Arcanine. There's a
there was
Growlithe
that
and
new collection
Arcanine.
box that came out. It's like one of the very first Sword and Shield products that had the 3 starters in it.
This one, it doesn't. It's not the. It's a different type of hollow pattern.
Oh, it's not hollow. I thought they were hollow borders.
Oh, PK. Have you seen? Okay, so they are hollow border, but see how it's not Cosmos. It's the flat hollow.
Oh, okay. So, oh yeah, I don't know which ones you're talking about then.
Dude. Oh, chat. Help us out. Help me and PK out here. I don't know. Link him in his Instagram, like the Arcanine, the new Arcanine blister promo.
I have one.
Okay, cool. Never mind. He has one. Good. Okay, because if you guys, I feel like this is something people haven't really caught on to or talking as much about. That might be my most bullish part. Not actually, I like ETBs for the new Scarlet and Violet era, but for me, the biggest improvement to the Scarlet and Violet era, gosh, oh golly, PK, I'm in love. If I could have hearts on my eyes, you would literally, it should be there. That's one of my favorite blister promos ever. It's got.
You want to hear something crazy? I didn't even know that there was a different hollow pattern on the border. I never took the second to even look at it.
I'm glad that you know now, because it's a difference. So there's a few things that have that. There's some do and some don't. So like if the promo, the Squirtle has that Cosmos hollow, chef's kiss, I am all in. I will buy 100 of them, just on the secondary market. But yeah, I think I'm bullish about that particular element of Scarlet and Violet more than I am about what they've been releasing so far. Nah, it's not true. 151 looks really good, so that looks good. But anyway, but as far as I'm concerned, Magic the Gathering, though, is going to consider this a success. It's a smashing, resounding success. I was wrong, though, and I think that a lot of the other people out there who had tinfoil hats on were also wrong about it being in a gift bundle, which I thought for sure. Yep. But props to Wizards of the Coast for not putting it in that gift bundle. I honestly, it gives me a lot of like faith in their integrity at that level, that it didn't come out of one. Because like,
be careful, you might eat your words if we find out it's like some Wizard of the Coast employee's brother-in-law was the one that pulled the card,
That's fair. Did you hear the story a little bit more after it came out? Like who pulled it? Okay, so for those who are watching, and for you, since you haven't heard more, I read a little bit more into it, maybe an hour or 2 or 3 hours after the story broke. It got pulled in Canada. So the ring was pulled in Canada. It was put forth, the David Adams Card World put it forth that it was pulled, and PSA corroborated it. But the game store where the person who pulled it frequents, they're the ones who also corroborated the story and broke the story. And in addition to that Canadian game store, to that news breaking, he calls himself the puller of the pack. The article calls himself the puller, wanted to remain anonymous. But if he was accepting offers, and you could contact either the game store or his lawyer I think his lawyer through the game store or something, in order to make offers to him. So that's how I learned that he didn't immediately sell it to the bounty. And
Yeah,
so it was like, it's kind of a wild thing, man, because like, am I wrong once again? Is $2 million not a lot of money to a
it's a
normal
lot.
person?
Do you think that there is so let's play devil's advocate though. Obviously taking 2 million and running is, I mean, no one ever went broke taking $2 million. But is there a world in which like a bidding does bring that card above 2 million, or post it at a buy it now at 6.9 million and just field offers until that right buyer comes along? And you know, the thing is I don't know how many buyers are out there that could pay that much, but what's the most expensive Magic card that sold recently? That was Post Malone bought that Alpha Black Lotus, right? Signed by Christopher Rush. I think he spent like 800 G's for that. So
It's
you're
close
still
to a million, but
1.2
it didn't
million
get
away.
there yet. Yeah, it wasn't quite a million.
Yeah.
So like I
So
can't see, I don't know, dude. I just can't see like the One Ring eclipsing even like is there $1 million Pokemon card besides the illustrator Logan Paul traded for?
yeah, I mean the Illustrator sale is weird too, because a lot of that value was in the trade, because
That's why I said he traded for it. It's
yeah,
not
because he also had a PSA 9 Illustrator and he traded it, and he valued that PSA 9 at like a very high, evaluation. And I mean, you could look at Scott SM Pratt. Like he's had a PSA 9 Illustrator for sale forever. And he just keeps gradually like increasing the price, but he's not getting offers on that. I mean, that card went from being a half a million to a million to 2 million. I don't, it's one of those flex auctions. I don't even know what it's listed at now. It could be 3 million, but
So who's the buyer on the One Ring? So to your question, to your point, that's exactly where I'm thinking. Like, and that's why I looked up those stupid dumb props. I'm like, okay, if a guy's gonna bid X amount of money, okay, so I do want to say the last sale of those props was the last one was like 2017. That was the Gandalf staff. And so that's why it was not maybe higher than it would be in today's market. I bet you that Gandalf's staff in today's market would go for closer to 500 to I don't
I
know,
think
maybe.
I think your buyer is somebody who's just like, it's got to be a little nerdy, just like we all are, but probably just like made a bunch of money in crypto or a bunch of money in like some startup and is a retired person, 100 million plus net worth, probably even more than 100 million, maybe like 500 million plus net worth. And they're just sitting pretty. They're, they don't care about Lamborghinis. They don't care about Ferraris. They care about nerdy stuff. And if you're a super nerd and you grew up playing Magic the Gathering and it's something you love, you're going to want the top of the mountain. And right now, that card has become the top of the mountain. As shitty as it is to say, like modern cards to become top of the mountain, with the culture we live in, with the time period we're living in, modern becomes king in a way. So, yeah, if you got a guy who created some shit coin, crypto coin, pumped and dumped it for 100 million plus dollars, and he's sitting on all this money, he's got startups, like to throw 2 million at a card, like I can see that being a possibility. Hell, I know people in this hobby who cannot afford to like sometimes pay their rent, or their mortgage, and they're spending hundreds of dollars on packs. So
It's a broke hobby, man. It really is.
yeah. But if you have hundreds of millions of dollars and 2 million is more or
That's a
less
different
maybe not
level.
throwaway money, but you have it to burn.
It's FU money, basically, at that
Yeah, I
point.
mean, you get to
I've
that point
known
where
people of that caliber before. Like I've sold to some people on my streams who had certainly that type of money. And it's just like when you get to that level, yes, I think that but $2 million, man, for a piece of
it's a lot.
cardboard, a PSA 9. Like we're not even getting into the weeds with the PSA 9
No,
thing.
let's do it. I want to know your thoughts. So would you have done minimum grade? So minimum grade 10, and if it doesn't hit the 10, you would go authentic.
Are
Because
you
I
kidding
do
me?
believe
Why
though
didn't they
that,
go with Beckett? Like, I don't get why they didn't go with the guarantee with Beckett. They showed the label, what it was gonna have. It was gonna have that sick black label and the like the script of the ring that was written in whatever dark speech is or Mordor. And it's like, why did this person, is he living under a rock? Is he just not aware of the $2.1 million bounty, not aware of the BGS offer, and instead chose to pay? I don't know. He probably got it. He probably did it for free with PSA.
yeah, when
Any
that
grading.
comes back on the channel, I'll ask him. But
Yeah, that's fair. That'd be an interesting thing. Like, say, hey, like, did you guys reach out and put up forth sort of a deal for someone to grade? Say, hey, we'll grade it, and
but
he
a
might
card
not
like
want
that,
to.
you are looking at a upcharge of about $10,000. And the reason we know
Yeah,
that is if you guys watched, not to you, but to everybody out there, if you watch my mega live, I had Brown Eyes Yellow Dragon on, and during that live, he mentioned that he graded an Illustrator Pikachu and ended
they
up
did
hitting
him
like an 8.
dirty, dude. They did him dirty. Yeah, by upcharging him,
Yep.
they
But
did
they
him
upcharged him
so
10 grand. So that's how we know that. And that's the highest tier. So that ring card would get that $10,000 upcharge.
oh, in a heartbeat. That's the thing. That's why, like, it would surprise me if like he went and paid that. Like, and so another thing is like he supposedly has legal representation for this, and like that's another thing that I'm like wondering, like, how foolish are you to go and like waste, I don't know, thousands of your dollars to get legal representation on something that my dumbass could have told you just to sell for $2.1 million if the guy wasn't just bluffing with his, muffin or whatever the hell.
Yeah. I honestly, I would want to test the market, to be honest with you, Josh. I would want to see what the market was willing to pay. And but this is
Well,
$2
okay,
million
what about
is
this?
life-changing money though.
What
So
if
that's
would you feel that way if you knew that after you took the auction for it that bounty offer was off the table? Because like if it goes for auction, I feel like it would be fair for every bounty that was out for it to basically come off the table. Because why wouldn't it? Because like
yeah.
that makes no sense to have a bounty on something that's going for auction because it sets an artificial floor. Why wouldn't those people just bid that amount on it unless they're just lying? So
Yeah.
it seems like putting it as an auction, while it seems like you're saying it would be safe to do to test the market, is the most risky thing you could possibly do. You know what I mean? I don't
I mean,
know.
but I'm not putting it up for auction. I'm putting it up for a flex buy it now. Like I'm telling you, that's $6.9 million. That's a
Oh,
dollar
that's what
amount
you
on.
mean by test the market. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm putting it as a buy it now, 6.9 million, some big flashy number. And when you put it as a number that big, like people will talk about it, you know? And people will talk about it in positive and negative, and Rudy will make videos about it, and Rudy will be like, if you want it, you can buy it, 6.9 million, and he'll love it. Like you will get so much traction. And then
Netflix will make an episode of the Ken Golden show just that comes out not in its own season, but
yeah,
it's its own episode just for that, so that he can shill that shit up on Netflix.
and
I
then the
mean,
way people who are not in the hobby will start talking about that card, they'll look at the buy it now price and they'll start to refer to that card as the Magic the Gathering card worth 6.9 million. And we see that happen in Pokemon. I see people talk about buy it now prices and go, well, that card's worth this much money. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Time out, time out.
sold. Hold on, hit the filter, hit the
Yeah, yeah, it's
sold.
not worth that much.
Money.
It's just like when you look at PokeRev sealed booster box collection. You don't say, "Oh, his collection's worth $6 million." No, no, no. That's a flex price PokeRev puts on. But you know what I mean. People not in this hobby, then
Right.
people will start to refer to that card as a $6.9 million Magic the Gathering card until eventually you just need one person to come along, offer you that like 3 million because they think they're getting a deal, and then you just like done. I'm flying it to your house in person. I'll hand deliver it to you in a, you know,
I really, though, the more I think about it, the more foolish this person feels for not keeping it secret and just taking it to the grave. What, like, literally, were there, it must have been a situation where people are around, because if it was pulled in a room of people, there's no way that you could even keep two people quiet about it,
no.
much less three. Like, if it was just me and my significant other, I still feel like we would have a chance of it leaking, and it would be like, and if you then have a position of like 100,000 collector boxes, not 100,000, say 1,000 collector boxes that you say, okay, here's a weird situation, a bizarre world situation that I want you to put yourself in. It's not that bizarre, but here's a situation that maybe could happen to someone if maybe someone else pulled it. You pull the One Ring, you're in a room all by yourself. You don't have maybe $1 million to your name. Maybe you're a broke boy. You spent your last $500 on this One Ring, but you were in that room alone and you have that one thing that you have that knowledge proprietary to yourself. So even without any capital, maybe you could go to one other person who has that capital, who maybe you trust or you think you could trust or you think would be in to go in on with you. And you could propose to them a deal and say, hey man, I have this thing, I have this ring. If you want, we can do this, go in on it. I would go to the richest person I know with the most risk tolerance possible, who's the craziest MFer I could possibly find. And I would go and I would make that deal before I shopped around for it. So then, you go to this person, you make a deal, you start buying up 1,000 collector boxes, right? You say, okay, the collector boxes are on their way to $500 right now. We know the ring is pulled. You and I know. Nobody else knows. We can buy these collector boxes to infinity, basically, knowing that as long as people think the ring's still out there, they'll keep on opening and keep going up in value. And so the problem with that is the risk that you take as that guy making that move is if at any point your partner or that one other person who knows, or even hell, you let it slip to somebody and it gets out that the ring is out there, your whole plan is shit. And your whole, like, your leverage you put into it, your whole blood, sweat, and tears, the money you didn't have to begin with, is all gone on a risk that you basically squandered off of greed. So like there's a situation where you could potentially win big, and yeah, sure, you can get those 1,000 boxes and sell them when they're $2 million each and make more money than the earth has off of the Lord of the Rings, product. But more realistically, it's going to slip. PS, it's something's going to get out. You're going to get greedy. You're going to need money, whatever it is. Most people who are opening this, I think there were whales opening it. I think a lot of them were gamblers though, and they didn't have a lot of money. So I would bet this person just is going to sell it because they want the money. So like, Occam's razor says the most reasonable thing is the simplest answer is the most reasonable answer,
Yeah.
And I would imagine that the person just pulled it when they were sitting at a table with their friends. It wouldn't have been possible to keep that knowledge proprietary, because at Friday Night Magic, okay, right now it's Friday night. It is a sacred and holy time for Magic players right now. I know we're in a Pokemon stream that most Pokemon people, this means nothing for them. Friday Night Magic is a sacred time for Magic players. Like, I remember I had a girlfriend in high school whom our relationship, she knew that on Friday, I was gone for several hours on Friday nights. Like that was this and it was like okay, she was understood. And I knew a lot of people who were like that was a thing. So Friday night's very important to Magic players. I can imagine a lot of these boxes were just open on Friday Night Magic at LGSs with people who are opening, looking for the ring and looking for the cards, and who pre-ordered it maybe and didn't necessarily get charged that $500, because there's a lot of really good local game stores out there who didn't charge $500 a booster box, who they didn't care about what the secondary market is doing. They don't even list their product online. It just is sold locally, and they got it for $269 or whatever the amount is that they got it for the distributor, and they could sell it for $350 or whatever it is and pre-order. They sold out of their pre-orders, and that was that. And their local game store was well served for them. There were a lot of game stores that happened for. Obviously, there are a lot that didn't happen for, where they sold up to 500, which I'm happy for, but it could go both ways. So I think that box probably was open with other people around. That's probably why they didn't try to take advantage of that. And then I don't know why they geared it with PSA. Why did they do that, PK? Why?
I'm okay with it if they graded with PSA and it hit the 10.
That's what I mean. Like, why'd they grade it with PSA and let it get a 9?
I don't know. The 9's weird.
It's kind of like bittersweet. Just like
it is bittersweet. And does a 9 matter truly on a 1 of 1? The answer should always be no. But
We're gonna
If you
see.
look at the high res scans, you know how PSA has a high res scans. If you look at them, that card looks really clean, and it would have been a very interesting conversation for a lot of people if you graded it authentic, because people would look at that card and say, I don't see anything wrong with it. And then everyone would say, why did this person grade this card authentic? Why didn't he grade it with a number grade? And then people will have their speculations like it must have a dent, it must be a 6, all this stuff. But like you were talking about with the Beckett, like that could have been a play too. It's
How much were they gonna pay? $1,000 of
Yeah,
like,
but CGC also had a $3,000 bounty. I don't know if you knew that,
I didn't know
but
that.
I would rather pay somebody $3,000 to not grade that card with CGC, let alone take CGC's $3,000, you know? But
I mean, I
I think
didn't.
I would have went with PSA,
Yeah, well,
but
looking at the card, if it was, I didn't look at the card specifically to see if I thought it deserved the 9 or not. That's ironically because it just doesn't, at this point, it doesn't matter if it deserved it or not. That it's in my head. That's what I look at it as
I would have
because you
went
can't even
PSA with
regrade.
minimum grade of 10. And
Yeah,
then,
that I don't think they do that though. A minimum
oh
grade of
yeah, they do.
really? Oh, okay,
Yep.
that's cool. Because Beckett doesn't allow you to minimum grade 10. They only minimum grade 9.5.
Yeah, when you walk through the door with a $2 million card, they'll make special arrangements with you. The CEO will come out and shake your hand personally and look at your card, man. Like, I mean, that's not
Well,
a
why did
card
it
that
get a 9,
walks.
man? Is there like a scratch on that bad boy? I'm wondering. Is there like something like a surface scratch? It's like unmissable, or
It
what's
could be.
going on?
I mean, just imagine. You never like see videos of people they're pulling cards and then they go oh, and they like do this. They drop it and they're like and they slam it down. Dude, cards. And this is the irony of what these are. These are playing cards. These are made to be shuffled and flipped around and did all this stuff. Dude, Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering cards, they chip so easily. And chipping is, you know what chipping is, right? Like chipping is when you can see like the white, and like they're not like a bicycle playing card that it has like a wax coating on it that you could shuffle through that deck 1,000 times before you really start to see crazy wear and tear. So it could just be something that simple, or maybe it was through like the loading process to load that pack, because you got to keep in mind all these cards are going into those sorters and those sorters are rifling cards out. It could have been within that process of
It'd
just
be a
seeding
weird
that
edge
card
on it.
into a pack. And then nine's a strong grade. I mean, I got a lot of nines that I more or less don't know the errors on them. So
Yeah, it just begs the question, like, why not Beckett? Why not all these other things? And I guess there's always going to be a million questions with something like this. But I will say I'm glad that it got pulled. Like, I'm really glad it got pulled rather than it going on for on and on and on. And the question being like, oh, did someone pull it and they're keeping it a secret? Or did it just not get pulled? Did they never put it in? Like, all these questions would arise if it didn't come out sooner rather than later. And it's been out a week or so, or 2 weeks now or something, and
yeah.
it's
Uh
just weird. It's really weird that it didn't come out of the collector, but the gift bundle.
yeah. I see a lot of people in the chat mentioning that, Turner. I wasn't really gonna like broadcast it, but it is rescheduled, that podcast. It's rescheduled for July 18th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll be able to hopefully get these answers from him. And I think people underestimate how busy somebody like a billionaire's schedule can be.
Dude, that's really cool. I already think I messaged you, and we were talking a little bit about it, but that's so cool. Like, congratulations with Nat, because like if he does come on the channel, and you can even just ask him the bare minimum questions that he's willing to answer.
Oh,
That's
he
so
is.
cool that he's willing to come on to a Pokemon channel, like not a sports card channel, like
Mhm.
not a whatever, a relatively small Pokemon channel that's in the weeds. Like, that's really
Oh,
cool, dude. I couldn't think of really a better person to ask a ton of like great questions. So I know the dude's gonna have a ton of like his time is gonna be limited, and he's gonna have like limits to what he can say. So you'll probably do a good job coming up with a list of things that you think are
yeah.
important to ask.
I want to ask him the questions. I got to do the normal stuff, and I actually got a lot of good advice from Cool Trainer Ryan. I saw some people asking about the podcast. There's no podcast this month, but uh, I got some good advice from Ryan, and he was saying because I originally was telling him, I'm like, I'm nervous because of the time crunch of that. Like if I have a 30-minute to an hour long hour stretching it, but if I have a 30-minute conversation, like it can be really tough if I do the normal, like, hey Nat, tell everybody about your backstory and stuff. And the way Ryan explained it to me was introduce him as the CEO of PSA. And if the listeners out there don't understand what that means, that's on them. That's not on you. And I thought Ryan gave really good advice by pretty much saying Ryan was like, get to the point, man. And
Yeah.
he was hitting it hard. So that's what I think I will end up doing is just, and because sometimes when you bring people on the channel, people might not know them. You want to give the backstory. Like you have a great backstory in the hobby, like when you came on the first time, like that was something that it's important because it gives everybody a perspective for you. But now you're not the CEO of PSA. If you were, people instantly know who you are. And, collectors is crazy too. The fact that he's not just the CEO of PSA, Wada Games, Golden Auctions. It's like he's doing stuff. He's like 34 years old, man.
And he's on Twitter responding to like randos and everything on his comment section. So
He
he's
gives
out
me
there, man.
like Elon Musk type vibes, in a way, but like instead of doing what Elon Musk is doing, he gives me those vibes, but in like the collectible space.
Right.
And the dude is a collector. If you ever like look at his Instagram, his office is full of like sealed product. He's super heavy into graded packs. I'm really interested in to talk to him about that.
That's a
But more
funny, that's an
important,
irony. That's a hilarious irony,
yeah.
actually.
But the dude owns a Hank Aaron rookie card in a PSA 10. It's a Pop 2. You know, to own a Pop 2 what is it? 1954 tops. Hank, I don't know what year it is, but like still, it's a Hank Aaron rookie in a PSA 10 in a Pop 2. Like that dude's a collector. I'm sorry. Like
Do people on this channel even know who Hank Aaron is? I wonder.
maybe not.
Dude, I met Hank Aaron and his whole family. I gave them a tour around the winery that I worked for when I worked
Did
there,
you really?
like not 5 years ago. He was super old and super nice, and his family was also super southern and super nice, but
Oh,
really,
that's
really,
awesome, man.
yeah. But Hank Aaron, I was an idiot. I didn't bring anything from the sign. My manager, my
You gave him
coworker,
a Pokemon card to sign.
I literally didn't bring anything. I was just like, I went into work and my manager had told me the day before, he's like, dude, did you bring like a ball or anything? You want me to give you a ball? I was like, nah, I don't really care. But yeah, like, dude, it's you have to be in heavy in the weeds of collectibles if you're like the CEO of like the biggest collectors like grading company out there. At least I feel like he would have less. I would feel less of him if he wasn't big into collecting. Not
Yeah.
that you don't have to be into collecting, but like at least the fact that he has that stuff in the background, I would be expecting at least that much because like you got to be a bit of a nerd to be into this kind of stuff, and mad respect to anyone who is into that because like if you're here, like it takes all kinds, but you're a special kind of person. You're a type of nerd that I can at least respect because like collectibles, it's a weird thing, especially like cardboard collectibles,
Oh yeah.
like because like I could sit here and make an equivalency and say, hey, you could have Gandalf's staff for $325,000, but like 325K, there's a Yu-Gi-Oh card that went for like 300K recently. Like
Yeah.
that's in the cardboard world. That's sort of not much in some regards, like I guess. So I don't know. It's hard to make these equivalencies. So maybe I need to look at it differently. But I guess
Yeah.
my biggest question with Magic, though, and I guess what do I think? What I want to know what you think. But do you think that the next set or the next coming sets after this Lord of the Rings thing are going to have like this huge influx or this boon or boost that's going to be like gained off of the Lord of the Rings, like all these this new hype and all the money that's spent on marketing or whatever? Or do you think that, like you might have said earlier, that a lot of the people that were buying it aren't actually interested in Magic the Gathering so much? They're interested in like the IP of Lord of the Rings or
Yep.
the chase of the ring or the fact that everyone's talking about it. Like
I
how many
think
of these
it's a
people?
combination of all those things. And if people out there don't know, I believe that the next set that Magic the Gathering's coming out with, like their next specialty set, is going to be a Doctor Who kind of crossover. And Magic's done a lot of different crossovers. You got Lord of the Rings just happened, the Transformers recently happened. Like they've been doing a lot of these, uh, you know. But this is the thing. There was no IP that worked better in conjunction with Magic the Gathering than Lord of the Rings. Meaning, if there right now we have 106 people watching this live. If you took those 106 people, we were all in a room and we brainstormed it, and everybody was like, "What's the best IP that could potentially go with it?"
Lord of the
Like
Rings.
Dungeons and Dragons was kind of a failure in a
Number
way. Like,
two, yeah, Dungeons and Dragons would be like the second best thing
yeah,
you can
but
imagine. Yeah.
I'm sure those 106 people, if you were big braining it, think tanking it, would have came up with Lord of the Rings. It was a perfect mixture. And then the one of one ring, that one ring to rule it all, like it worked out well. The problem is I think you're gonna dilute that hype every single set if you keep doing one of ones. And listen, Magic the Gathering's been around for 30 years. They just had their 30th anniversary. They're gonna have another 30th anniversary and another 30th year, or to be 60 years. Do I believe in the next 30 years of Magic the Gathering, we see another one of one card? Hells yes, we will. Like,
We might
and
see it in
then,
the next couple of sets, for
yep.
God's sake, you
And they're
know?
going to keep doing it and diluting it. And the hype is just going to get less and less and less. And like the next one, people will realize quickly that the hype isn't there for those one of ones like it was for the Lord of the Rings card. And I think that Lord of the Rings card will always be special because it'll always have been the first, which is weird to say, the first one of one. But I mean, I could see a one of one card in 5 years from now easily being $150,000 card, sub 150, maybe $100,000 card in 5 years if they dilute those one of ones until eventually, like, I mean, I know there's a big collector group out there that likes, Doctor Who, but do they like it enough to like carry a dying brand, which in a way Magic the Gathering kind of is. It is and it
It
isn't.
feels
I
that way.
maybe that was a poor choice of words. It's not dying, but it was definitely struggling for a while.
That's the choice of words that I would make on my channel when I'm feeling particularly salty about Magic the Gathering. Now, mind you, I'm the type of person that like I haven't bought into Magic the Gathering since 2009. I bought in once or twice since then. I will say there's a couple exceptions. Like I personally left. Okay, this set down here, this one right here, I bought that since 2009. That was after the fact. That's a vintage set. I talk about it all the time.
Yeah, it was the last
That's
set to have non-hollows. You talked about that in my last
that
live you were
set,
on.
yes, is the exact set. It's the last set in Magic the Gathering before foils started appearing in Magic. And so when I was like really young and I was playing Pokemon, I had my cards stolen from me. Like I was at a tournament playing a Pokemon tournament. Believe it or not, those existed. And I had my binder and my little top deck like tournament box thing that I used to carry around my decks and my damage counters under my seat. I had my deck I was playing with, and when I reached under my seat to get my stuff after my tournament, the round was done, it was gone. So I was devastated, and I decided that I was done playing Pokemon because I didn't want to have to get all my stuff back and rebuild it. I wasn't a rich kid or anything. And I was going to move on to a different game, Magic the Gathering, that I thought was maybe a little more adult. I was ready to move on from Pokemon. It was in the Neo series, it was kind of fading in popularity. And so I got into Magic. And this was the first set that was coming in. And you know what this right after this set they did? They introduced foils. And my 12, 13-year-old little cynic ass self, the first thing I thought was, what is this? Pokemon with the foils? I hated it initially. And you know what? The rest of the Magic Gathering community, they also hated it for the longest time. Foils were just across the board. Like I have a foil that I bought, one of my commanders that I use, a foil commander legend, like that it's probably like a $400 or $500 foil or whatever. But when I bought it, it was like $5 because literally it was the same cost, if not 25 cents more than the raw unfoiled version because people didn't care about it. They actually hated foils. So like times change, things change, and gimmicks is something that is going to exist in card games. So like the whole, and since foils, we're now fast forward to 2023, we're at serialized one of one cards, and here we are. It's only going to get crazier. Like the Doctor Who thing will, who knows, maybe it'll have a sketch card where the actual actor signs the card, and it's a one-of-one signed sketch card, and you're gonna say, oh, that's super cool, like that's actually like really neat. And okay, sure, maybe it is, but I don't know, like how can you keep pushing the envelope, and at what point do gimmicks just get called out for what they are? And like at what point is a gimmick worth $2 million? And I guess,
Yeah.
like you said, it's with the one-of-one ring when the perfect storm comes to fruition. So I guess, do they have to make like the Lord of the Rings set part two with the one ring, one of one, but it'll have a different date on the bottom and a slightly different art, and that's what's going to come out in 4 years
I
from
I
now.
hope it's a little more original than that, you know, than
The
just
new
a
Modern Horizons, that was a smashing success that Magic came out with at once upon a time. It was a brand new format, modern. They were introducing a new type of box with a new price point on it and a different set of it was a different shape. Modern Horizons, the first Modern Horizons that came out, it was a set in Magic the Gathering that was somewhat revolutionary. I wasn't involved with the hobby at that time, but I was very aware of it happening. I even own some of it because, like, after the fact, I bought a little bit of it, like here and there. But it was a weird shaped box, and the reason Modern Horizons worked so well is because it was really unique. And so, what they do? They made Modern Horizons 2. They're
yeah.
gonna make up Modern Horizons 3, Modern Horizons 4. So, like, when they do something that works well, what they usually do is they always just do it again. That's their formula. So I don't know, man. It's disheartening to see like Magic going in that direction as being like the direction that it's like they have to go, when I'm so like I feel so I love Magic so much because like I feel like it does have strength in itself when it's strong. Like when it's good, it's really good.
Mm.
That's the thing. And that's the thing that I think a lot of Pokemon people in this hobby haven't seen in the last 2-3 years, is like they haven't seen Magic when it's been really good. And the thing about it that you hinted at that I agree with is in 30 years from now, Magic's still probably going to be around. And this is going to be a little blip in Magic. Who knows what it's going to be like? But like it most likely, if trading card games are still around, Magic is still going to be around. So like,
Oh, yeah. I think it would be hard. I mean, this is where like the Super Bowl in me comes out. Like I don't see Pokemon going away in 30 years. And I always quote Gary King Pokemon in this. He always talks about Pokemon. He always says if Pokemon tomorrow prints their last Pokemon set and they say, okay, that's it, we're never printing another Pokemon set. Gary used to always say that still gives Pokemon 20 years of life after it. People still like collecting and selling. And it's going to get less and less because maybe that newer generation's not going to do that influx anymore. But he said even when they print the last card, it still gives that set or that hobby 20 years. And I'm still a strong believer in that. But the way stuff is going right now, especially, I mean, even Magic, though, Magic is in a downturn, but you could still look at their numbers. Like they are a publicly traded company in Hasbro. They're still pumping out and selling a ton of cards. We're not talking like anything close to shut the doors. And when you start to rewind the clocks a little bit and start to look at like older print runs, start to look at those mid 2000 years when you were playing and stuff, like they're doing phenomenal opposed to those years. So
yeah, those what people don't really realize about those times is that was a really dark time in trading card game hobby. Like, I don't know. I spent a lot of time in like I had parents that were split up when I was younger, so like they lived in different states, and I would go and visit family that also lived in different states. So I was pretty well traveled for a younger kid. I thought I was, at least. Like a lot of my friends had never left their hometown, but then I'd be traveling every like Christmas break to go see someone or family or whatever. And so I would always go in these new towns and go to LGSs. And that was like one of the things that I would do in new towns that I loved to do, was I would go to new towns, LGSs, and hang out there. So like I spent a lot of time in a store on a Thursday or a Friday or whatever at 3 or 4, 5 o'clock, where there's literally 2 or 3 people in there, and it's the same 2 or 3 people, and
yeah.
they're spending literally $20 a week because it's all the money their parents give them, and that was all that was happening in the late 2000s in a lot of game stores. It was like after school, some high schoolers would or middle schoolers would kick it afterwards with their binders, they'd play some Magic the Gathering, they'd maybe buy a couple singles, they'd buy a couple Cheetos packs, packs of a soda or whatever, and that was their $5 that they could spend. And like, you think that like that $20 that high schooler or that middle schooler was spending at that like game store was keeping the lights on like for them, and that was like how that was like, no, like, and that was a reality of a lot of this time that like Diamond and Pearl was coming around. And that's why you don't see so many black and white Diamond and Pearl, EX era booster boxes, is like the places that sold those things, booster boxes, like they didn't exist. They would go out of business because you couldn't exist on 3 high schoolers who spent $20 a week in your store. And
Yeah.
then the occasional, parent who comes in and buys around the holidays a couple of packs for their kids. And that's
Well,
all the hobby was.
I mean, you got Mason Berry in the chat. He knows what that could be like on some days,
And I
So,
think these days it's a lot better than it was, probably because of all of the hype that we saw during the. I think that Hidden Fates did so much to bring people into the hobby. It's like the unsung hero of the hobby that everyone knows, but no one wants to give it the credit for, because everyone likes to look at COVID and everything as being like the real big thing that brought people in. But I
Hidden
think
Fates
that
was the first set that was truly, you actually had to sometimes drive around to more than one store to actually find it.
yeah, and like I think it was also like one of those things that like it's it drove the demand up. Like before, if we didn't have that little tiny bit of interest, that the genuine interest that we got at the end of the Sun and Moon era with the Hidden Fates and some of the tag teams, and people didn't really care about tag teams back then. What am I saying? They only wanted Hidden Fates. And so if we didn't get that, then I don't know if we would have gotten the run up we saw during the pandemic, and we would be in this place we are now. So I personally do feel like that set is a lot of the reason why we got what we got. I don't think it's evolutions. I don't think it was Pokemon Go in 2016. There was a time period from like 2017 to 2019 where it was really dead. People don't like to remember that time. They always think of the 2016 boom, then they quote the 2020 boom, and they forget about that time between. But that existed. It always existed.
But
But
yeah,
yeah,
you can call Hidden Fates in a little way like the savior of Pokemon in a short term, but everything is so subjective, what the savior of Pokemon was COVID. That was the savior of Pokemon in a way, it just
and you
everybody
still
gets
get
shut down
people
all the
saying that it's going to boom again, like as if there's going to be another COVID, that because like, and it should, maybe it will, maybe that's why people say I'm a bear or whatever. I've been memed as the bear of the hobby at this point, but like it it's boomed so much, and it's so popular now that like to count and calculate in another boom like that is so, for me, I don't want to say foolish, but it's unrealistic. It seems like it. It's just that's why it may be why I sometimes pour a little cold water on those fires sometimes when I see them. Because I just feel like people, they want something to happen that is like a black
I
swan event.
I do all right. So I think sometimes people look for those black swan events, but I don't think they're really looking everywhere for them. I think you could have a potential black swan event happening literally like right here. Not this channel in particular, but like YouTube. And when you look at a guy like Pokerev and stuff, and you look at the reach he has, and like when you talk about like your Pokerevs and your Leon Harts and your Real Breaking Nates, those really, really big guys that get a ton of views, you look at how many views they're getting, the reach that those guys are having, and the impact that they're having on the new collector, because that's who they're going after, right? Is the new collector. And in everybody's Pokemon collecting journey, everybody has to start somewheres, and most people will start on those channels, right? So you can have a Black Swan event happen just within YouTube, because the YouTube algorithm does something as simple as start to put Pokerev videos in the top trending videos, which they have done. And we've seen the spikes and the like growth in Pokerev's channel. If you get that happen enough times, you can start to get this compounding effect, where you just start bringing people back into Pokemon because they're watching Pokerev open packs. And that in itself, I do believe has the potential of being like mini Black Swan events. And I
How
mean,
many Aerodactyl V alternate arts can possibly happen though from one person? You know what I mean though,
and it did, yeah.
because
I mean,
that's
think of the
basically
market cap of that card. I mean, Rev brought a card up like hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is one person brought up the market cap of one card. And if you look at the charts, the prices of that Aerodactyl have definitely retraced, but they have not retraced it to before he made that video.
still pumped pretty good, yeah. And so my question is like, I guess like how much of that was and continues to be Rev, and is like you said, like that Black Swan event sort of realization, or how much of that was like the market getting the price wrong and then being realized by that potential that like pump that happened or whatever. Because I don't know, man. Like a lot of people that card, that's getting in the weeds though. But like Black Swan events, as far as what you're describing as, I think maybe wouldn't call them a Black Swan event at that point. I would call it more of like a manipulated, sort of like
Where
manufactured event.
where does it stop being manipulated and manufactured and to start to be organic? Because I don't really
Because you can
consider like
point
Rev's videos
directly.
he's doing like manipulation type videos. I
That's
feel
not what
like
I meant. I don't mean to say that he's directly. That's not what I meant, because I don't think that at all. As a misspeak if that's sort of what the chat thinks, because I don't want that to be the. I just mean like I wouldn't call that or a Black Swan event. Like if a YouTube channel that was really big, maybe not Rev, maybe Leon Hart, maybe it's a different person every time. It's not even coordinated, so it's not manipulation like that. But like it's organic, but it's pumped by a bigger. I would still call that manipulation to a certain extent. I wouldn't call that organic. And so, like, to call that a Black Swan event, I would maybe get in the weeds a little bit about semantics, because, like, I would be less likely to call that a Black Swan than I would something like COVID and the pandemic, because you had with the pandemic and everything, the Black Swan event wasn't one little pandemic. It was the government handing out checks to people for $1,200 every month for X amount of months, the extra amount of money that people got for unemployment that people could use, the PPP loans or whatever that people misused and got and overspent. That I don't think a lot of that was happening. Some of it was
yeah,
certainly
but
happening.
PP or like
The business loans and
stimulus
things.
checks don't cause first edition booster boxes to jump up $100,000+
Right. So
either.
I don't think that particular element was happening as much in this, but I mean, you heard some stories about like those being taken out and but that's not the norm. But
Yeah.
like more so, those were all compounding events that you could, and then the Logan Paul thing happened at that time as well. And like, then everyone was like looking for something to do because they were all stuck at home with the nature of the pandemic. Like all of that, I would call a Black Swan event together, but none of those things individually would I call a Black Swan event. So like I would call that Black Swan event, but I wouldn't call Logan Paul getting into and making a base set booster box and breaking it and getting all his hype. I wouldn't call that a Black Swan event. That's just
Yeah.
one guy trying to manipulate the market or trying to pump the market. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say manipulate. I get in the weeds with that, but
Yeah, I think sometimes we like I definitely do it too. Sometimes I'll phrase stuff to be like a little bit of fallacy too. And you mentioned it perfectly earlier tonight when you talked about hidden fates. Like people talk about the Logan Paul box break, and one of the things I try to hammer down all the time on this channel is there was so much organic growth happening in Pokemon before that happened. Like there Pokemon was doing the most healthy. I mean, when I talk about healthy, like textbook healthy growth in the hobby, like it was going up like this, going up, but
Grandpa called me.
it wasn't just like rocketing and doing like these crazy things. It was
No, it
just
was steady. And
it was
and
a
my
steady,
Facebook friends, my grandpa
and
called
it was
me saying,
healthy.
yeah,
That's the
people
key.
were
It was healthy.
talking
So
about it. Yeah.
when all the things that you just mentioned, like all these like things that can be individual catalysts, all kind of compounded at one time, because you had this super healthy hobby and you had like and I always talk about Pokemon by that point, like the collector base was a very well established base. And the reason why I say they were well established, because a lot of the people that were in this hobby in 2018, 2019, a lot of that new influx got in at 2016 during Pokemon Go. And then a lot of the rest were before that. But 2 years into this hobby, like people are relatively seasoned collectors, and it's the same thing we're seeing happen right now. And come 2020, fast forward to today, 2023, we have people in this hobby that were literally like put in the freaking trenches of this hobby, like they got the biggest crash course on Pokemon that has ever happened and may ever happen. Like I talked to some people now today who just got back in a year or two ago, and the amount of information they know is like, it's almost make believe. It's like to a point of science fiction before. And because the information's out there, people are like doing all these in-depth dives and stuff, but like when you have like those huge catalysts, but you have that huge collector base that's already been established, it's just that's primed rocket fuel ready to blast off. So when you have that catalyst, it's like dropping a match into that rocket fuel. It just exploded, and we saw that happen. And in 2023, now you have all these new season collectors that got in this crazy hype period of 2020, have navigated their way through this impossible hobby lately. And now if somebody throws a match into this hobby, I don't know what's going to happen, but like I do believe you can have another Black Swan event. I don't know what that catalyst can be, but I don't think anybody ever truly knows what that catalyst is going to be like. But I hope when it does happen, I'll recognize it happen. So
It's always hard to tell when something like that's happening because like it feels like it's going to go up more as it's happening because you're so high on the endorphins of like the rocket ship and everything going up, and so it's really hard to capitalize on that stuff after, especially on something that like you really care about and love, that like you watched for so long. And I think that's what sort of happened a lot with like the tag team stuff, is like a lot of that stuff didn't move for so long, and now it's just kind of up and away, and people know it's like that's just gorgeous. It's not going to be reprint. It's just like it's one of those things. So I will walk back what I said in it, not in that I don't believe that a Black Swan event won't happen, but I think that more my point was that I think that people are counting on it happening. You know what I mean? And that's where I try to pump the brakes when I start hearing people sort of being so positive about it. It's like I'm just as bullish as the next guy is. Like I was trying to look for my DCI card before this stream just so I could flash my DCI card on the stream to really give myself some cred. But my old wallet from when I was a middle school kid is like somewhere deep in my closet. So I don't know
please
where
tell me
that.
it's a Velcro wallet that if you
Yeah,
peel
so
it.
it's a Ninja Turtles Velcro one. You remember the blue and green one? I literally have my DCI card. I'm pretty sure it's behind my ID, my school ID, in that old wallet somewhere deep in my. So I couldn't find it, unfortunately. But like, I
Wow.
needed to flash some credit on the stream because, like, trust me, there's nobody who's going to be in this hobby. There are people who are in this hobby who will be in this hobby longer than me. They're gonna outlive me, outlast me, outcollect me. It's just gonna happen. But there are few people that I know that will continue along this path long after it becomes cool, long after the hype wears off and there's no more YouTube channels making daily, weekly, monthly content on it, long after when the trading card shops in your local game store are shutting down. I will still be here in this hobby. And because I've been here in the hobby at that time, and I'm very curious how many people will, because I am bullish on it, but I'm worried that people think differently about what it could be and than what it is sometimes. So I guess that's sometimes where my caution comes from.
Let me ask you a question. Quinn, you said when all the YouTube channels are dead and stuff, where do you see like YouTube and where do you see social media? Like, what role do you see it playing in the future of this hobby? Do you
Well,
see
right
social
now
media
it's
being like a catalyst to bring it to the next level? Because I do believe that. Like,
yes.
there will always be like struggles for my channel. Like, I'll always have a cap with the type of content I make. Like, I always have a very limited viewer base, but like I do believe the cap for a channel like mine is like right around like 20,000, which is real like that's far from where I'm at today, but I do believe like that is a cap where we stand today. And nobody has really ever made it to that cap yet who makes this kind of content, like very poor edited content, like long form live discussions and stuff, but I do believe that's a cap. And that's just a number I've wound up on. Like currently the number one channel doing it is Jake Pokenomics, but he's only right around like 10,000 subscribers. But I do believe there's like a 2x from there. It's just a matter of getting there. But where do you see like the future of content and the effect it will have on the hobby?
I personally, that's the wild card that I think is something that we didn't have before that may potentially be like you were describing earlier, like Black Swan events. Maybe I wouldn't call it that, but I would certainly don't want to discount the amount of power it has shown to have, at least in this particular hobby. Because, like, let's be real, it's a flexing hobby. Like with Pokemon in general, it's the ability to show off your stuff and like make a YouTube video about it, or make an Instagram reel about it, or a TikTok, or make a quick little video, whatever it is about social media that people are into at that particular time. Cards really do show, and grading and the whole hobby right now does well with that kind of culture. So like social media is all about that culture right now. So I think it does well and it works well, and it will do only good things per se for the hobby. In the future, I worry though that like the cardboard element of these things and the physical element and the cardboard element doesn't mesh so well with the digital element, and
Hmm.
that's when sometimes my bearish takes come out the most, is when I potentially think about the future of things like digital trading card games or video games versus trading card games. And I don't know, like for me, I love this stuff. So like I can't wrap my smooth brain around it because I live and breathe this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I literally was talking about digging out my DCI card. Like most people in the chat won't know what that is, but your DCI tournament card is a number that's assigned to you when you go into the Magic the Gathering tournament scene, the old one. And when you play in a tournament in your local game store, if you win your tournament, depending on what your record is, you input that stat into your DCI number online. After every single tournament, you have to do it online, and then they will update your number. And then after you reach a certain score, you would be invited to bigger tournaments and bigger qualifications. And it was a way of keeping track of everyone's score for tournaments. So that's what DCI card is. So, but anyway, like I think that the hobby is potentially going to be handicapped by that old school, old style of like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know how many kids play the trading card. I know that there's a lot of like adults that play the trading card. I know there's a lot of teenagers that play it, but like, I guess maybe I'm not seeing enough.
I think there's a lot of kids that are playing it. But
That would be really good to hear. Like, I am hoping that's the case, because that's for me, I would be the most bullish on it. But
so
like, I guess why
I
trading cards? What is it about these things that you and I and kids continue to love when they could clearly be having the newer, hotter thing? Like, is it just their parents bringing them back and sharing that love with them? Or is it something organic that we love about it? Like, why did me, little Josh, as a kid, subscribe for like $50 a month, probably, to 3 different subscriptions and magazines just to keep up with the latest like top deck tech or whatever it is? And yeah, it's like, why did I do that? And when I could have been playing whatever Banjo Kazooie or whatever video game,
Crash
whatever
Bandicoot.
Crash or whatever, Spyro, whatever was coming out at that time, the newest hottest thing.
Yeah.
So, but I chose trading cards, and I would literally sit in my room as a child. I had one of those boombox radios. I'd put like the NSYNC on, or the Backstreet Boys, whatever was playing on the radio, the top 10 on the radio, and I'd have my 5,000 count box, and I would be putting decks together on the ground of my floor, next to where, the vent was, the air conditioning vent, because it was nice and cool. And I would be putting decks together for hours on end when I could be playing video games. I could be doing like whatever it was, but that was what I wanted to do. I question, are kids still doing that? I really hope they are.
I think they are. I think some kids are, and it's just a matter of sticking with it. But
But why? Why though? Why
I think
trading
you're
cards?
I think in a way you're born with it, if that makes sense. Like I honestly believe that certain people in this hobby, they're born with it. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a mutation within your DNA. Like you're just born with whatever that collector gene is. There you go.
If you have one of these, you might have been born with it.
Yeah.
You might have that stupid gene we're talking about,
Yeah.
that money that will drain your wallet, but it might help as well in some regards, you know.
But I do want to move this into talking about we mentioned a little earlier this live. We talked about a little bit before the live, talking about the new UPC, the Mew UPC. And I talked to you, I don't know if I said it during the live, but do you want to get 4 Pokemon Center UPCs, even though it's not exclusive Pokemon Center UPCs, but they now have a Squirtle promo, and it's like, okay, gonna have to get the Squirtle promos and get in 4 UPCs. Like,
It's an
what do you think
attractive.
about that product?
So I have to come from this from two different perspectives. So I buy through a distributor, mostly for my modern products. So when it comes to like new things like that, I already know that I'm going to get an X amount of it from my distributor for a certain price or whatever. So like I'm not as worried about getting pre-orders as I would be if I wasn't. So like me who buys from a distributor, I'm simply sitting back and I'm buying my allocation. I'm going to see what it does. And that's what's going to happen. You know, that's how it's going to be. But if I didn't have that, I very much so, in this particular case, if I could afford it, I would probably order 4. Okay, let me just put it this way. I think that UPC is the best product in the whole sell or in the whole 151 line. I think that a lot of the products are really good. Like, I really love the booster bundles. The booster bundles are going to be like an outlier product that I think personally, if people just love the set and can't get enough of it, booster bundles is going to be fantastic. But I honestly think that the 151 UPC is like the perfect product for that set. As
Yeah.
someone, if you're just looking to buy one thing, if you're just in the future, as someone who, excuse me, excuse
God
me,
bless you.
if
Shout out to
somebody,
Professor Oak.
yeah, so in 10 years from now, if you missed out on 151, right, and you didn't get a chance to open it when it was really cheap and really hype, and you even missed out the 5 years where it was the same price it was when it came out, like Pokemon Generations, like that was, because that's how it was for Generations. You could
Yep.
buy those packs for under $10 for like 4 or 5 years after its release.
You could buy those packs for under like $5 for a while.
That's what I mean. Like, it was cheap. Like, people don't realize they're $50 packs now. They were not $50 packs.
Yeah.
And so that could very well happen for 151. But then flash forward 10 years from now, that's gone. Like, you can't get 151 for cheap anymore. It costs whatever it costs. Pokemon hasn't died. It's still doing okay. Maybe it's not in the clouds, but it's doing pretty good. It's in the mountains. So you as a person want to open something from 151 because you want to get that beautiful Mew. You can't open another product besides that UPC to get the Mew. And
Hmm.
I personally don't think that you would ever want to open the product without the chance of opening the Mew. And by having it in the promo spot and giving it guaranteed to everyone who opens it, and then getting 16 more packs to try to hit the Zard, the Blastoise, the Zapdos,
Yeah.
the Venusaur, the other beautiful secret art rares or whatever, that would be to me something I would want to open. But if I knew that the Mew wasn't in there, I would never buy a product that had no chance of opening it when there was one that existed that you could. I guess you know what I mean? So
But it's
that's
not just the Mewtwo, it's the Mewtwo. And the Mewtwo
yeah,
is the last like alternative art Mewtwo we got was in Pokemon Go, but
this one's
listen,
better.
I think it was a weak Mewtwo. I didn't think it was a great Mewtwo. This one in this set, it's a mean Mewtwo. Like, it's made for
So
adults.
good.
It's not made for kids. Like, it's mean. And if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Like, by just looking at it,
Yeah. And
you
I
have
think
the Mew.
151 is a gorgeous set. I honestly think it could be something that people will organically want to open no matter the price of the singles. And like, I thought Crown Zenith was a very, 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 let me add very at least 69 more times on there, very strong set. I think 151 blows it out of the water. And so it's going to get printed like Crown Zenith. It's going to be opened to the ground like we always see. But if there was one product that I was confident in potentially not tanking in value because it was something that I think that everyone will organically want no matter what, it would be the UPC. And to get a Squirtle, to get it guaranteed from the Pokemon Center for the base price of 120, which I think is very fair for what it is,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to pay like $80 or $90 for it from my distributor. So like we saw what the UPCs for Charizard did. Everyone's all worried about it. Like 120 is very, very fair,
Yeah.
in my opinion. I know that some people don't think there's a lot of value in it, and that's fine. That's okay. But I think it's great. So I
I think
personally don't see another product that will do better than that. So I think buying with the 4 Squirtles and getting those and getting your guarantee at 120 is completely reasonable. And I
oh
don't
yeah.
think anyone should be worried about that if you have the money to do it. Hell, I would be doing that if I didn't have my distribution. I would guarantee 100%. I would
I mean,
order more, honestly.
there's a chance, it's the same thing with the Charizard UPCs right at release. Like, people love to shit on Charizard UPCs right now because they're $98. Now, this is a caveat. The graded quality of those promos are rough. They weren't great, but if you did get lucky, the EV on that product, the expected value, was huge at release. And there is this is a chance with that Mew UPC that like at release, there could be huge margins for the expected value if you break it down, grade those cards, get 10, because that Mew's beautiful.
It's
That
gorgeous.
that
You're
metal
gonna tell me
card,
that texture on the Mew isn't gonna be so nice in the metal? They're gonna have that circular like spiral. It's
yeah,
gonna look so good on the metal.
the metal card's solid, the Mew's solid, and then you're telling me you got 16 packs to open up stuff. And then what are the auxiliary products? There's a
A
playmat and
play
stuff.
mat.
The playmat's weak.
It's so. I'm not strong on the play mat. The
That
Charizard
I could see
play
that
mat is
being
better.
like a $0 playmat, meaning it costs more to ship than
Yeah.
people are willing to pay.
I'm not gonna be able to give those away at conventions. That's gonna be
Yeah.
hard to.
So that's a weak product, but like the packs and stuff, and 151 still being a strong set, 16 packs, like you're still talking about a set that at a minimum those packs are, what are the booster bundles? $4.50 per pack.
It's the cheapest way you can get packs, the booster bundles. I think it's a little under 450. So
So
like
yeah, I
that's
mean, you're still talking a lot of money in the value of the packs. Like there's going to be plays at release if it plays out very similar to Charizard UPC. And I've talked about this a million times on my channel. It's going to be the ultimate race to the bottom on a play like that. Listen, I want to be playing that play again. I wasn't planning on it, but then Pokemon Center decided to have a Squirtle promo if I bought 4. So I'm back in the game. Oh,
I disagree with it being a race to the bottom with this particular product. I honestly think that the Charizard UPC scared so many investors away on it that we're really going to see the demand that this has is going to be a more organic demand than we saw for the
I
Charizard
hope so.
UPC. Well, because the narrative, okay, I don't want to say it, but the narrative leading up to the Charizard UPC was disgusting to me. And I was on record the entire time saying I'm not going to be a product, not going to be a great product, not going to be a great product. All the signs of weakness were there. I even came on your channel and we were talking a little bit about it before, I believe, on one of the lives. So you can, but I personally think that because of what happened with that, there are a lot of people who are stepped away completely from that type of speculation. I know for a fact that my distributor, they asked me how much if I thought it was gonna flop like the Charizard because they were worried about ordering the max amount because I think it's a good product, but there's always a chance you can't even sell the shit at this
Well,
point.
real quick, Nick, I want to hear your thoughts on this. I don't know if you saw the way those promos are supposed to be packaged in the set. Like they're packaged with the cardboard, like cardboard around the card, kind of pinching into the card. Nick brought up a great point in the chat. He said, I'm somewhat concerned about the way the promos are going to be packaged in the UPC. There is definitely 100% valid concern in his
For
comment.
concern, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, McNick. I'm glad you said that because I saw the picture as well, and that is immediately where because you remember the Hidden Fates
Oh,
10s
yeah.
when they switched them from the plastic to the paper. Did you prefer the plastic or the paper?
I prefer the paper because I would be able to like peel it off, but I don't really prefer either one. I
Yeah.
like my card loose in the plastic tray.
Why did they get away from that? Like, I loved it with the 3-pack. Like when they had the pack of the 3 Charizard promos, that was
Yeah.
perfect. Or the way they do the Juniper collection promos, how
Or
they have the code card
or
and the
yeah, any ETB promos, they're just
yeah.
individually loose package in there. Yeah, I don't like what
Made
they're
them
doing.
decide. I hope that's just like a weird picture and that's not how it's packaged. Like maybe there's a chance that that's just a factory shot that we got, but
I don't
I'm worried.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Maybe it's just the way the metal card is in there. And then maybe the promos, because the promos didn't look like they had the cardboard around it. It looked like they
Yeah.
were just placed next to it.
So maybe that was just the exactly.
The
Maybe
metal
those are
card.
separate in their own package. Like fingers crossed for
Yeah.
all of us graders out there who like to grade our cards, because that is the worst possible way that I think they could possibly package it if they put them in the cardboard with the corners like that. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna hope that they don't do that. But like I honestly I do think that in the next coming 6 months, after the 151 sort of dies off a little bit, we are going to see a introduction of a new higher tier rarity in the Pokemon hobby. I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to be serialized, but I think it's going to be high chase tier rarity,
Hmm.
like a shiny equivalent, basically. We haven't seen shinies in the like regular sets except for gold cards occasionally. And if they were to switch that shiny palette instead of doing it on the full art gold cards like they used to do and tend to do, and do it on alternate arts once in a while, like maybe they have 4 alternate arts in a set, but one of them is a shiny.
Hmm.
Like, and that one's the one that you're really wanting to chase, and maybe it's a little bit harder to pull. Like, I could imagine Pokemon on the 4th set really ramping up. So, like, I honestly think that in Pokemon right now, there's a lot of opportunity in English, but in Japanese, I'm seeing so much weakness in the market in the last couple of weeks. Have you possibly been noticing like a lot of auctions going down and like
Listen,
pricing
I stay away from that Japanese market. It scares me too much. But yeah, there's some.
like I see a lot of opportunity in English, but I personally am scared shitless of the Japanese market right
Yeah.
now.
But,
So that
but
would be
real
my
quick, I do want to
recommendation.
touch on this because we did mention it before we move subjects. Is that Squirtle promo? I'm guessing like all the pre-orders for 151 are going to get that promo, and I think they just showed it for the 151 for the UPCs. But I do believe that if you bought the ETBs, you should also get that promo, because if you read the wording on their announcement, it said 150. Anytime you buy a 151 product, you're going to get that promo. So I do believe they're going to do that. But I know there's a lot of people for the Pokemon Center UPCs. They buy sealed cases because they ship them in the case of 4 and they just slap the label on. A lot of people like that. But if they send promos with that, they're going to cut open your case, put those promos inside the case, close it, and put some scotch tape over it. And for most people, maybe they don't care if they're going to open that, but there's definitely like those sealed collectors out there who, the second you cut that stop tape, they will die inside. Like it will kill them.
That kills me, honestly. I have some sealed cases that it kills me a little bit because like I'm not breaking the seal on them because I know that some people will care a little bit. But
Yeah.
to me, in my mind, like I buy
Oh,
it from a distributor. I know where it's like to me, it's so foolish, but I understand that sentiment that some people might have with it. And you know, I'm a sealed collector too, so I get it. I totally get it being a
yeah,
sealed
but
collector.
because normal they never included those promos. But if you only bought 4 ETBs, how are they going to send you those promos? Like,
They
and
could put it
somebody
in
out
a
there
bigger
has like a
box.
solution that's not a separate package. Like,
They could
they're going to cut
theoretically
the
put it in
box
a
on
bigger
you.
box, like the case in a case or in a bigger cardboard box or some. But then
That
they'll
seems pretty wasteful to put.
oh for
Do
sure.
you want an entire case of ETBs floating around with your individual like promo? Probably
Oh,
not.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. I could just imagine a world where Pokemon Center just ships things in like the most wonky ways. You know what I mean?
Oh
I
yeah.
don't order a lot from Pokemon Center. We talked about it on my podcast. I was giving you a hard time about the Pokemon Center ETBs. I personally am not a fan, but I know there are people who are. So I'm just not as well versed in it.
Yeah, I think I one time bought like I don't even know what I bought, like one build and battle stadium or something super small, and it came in like this weird, super long rectangular box. And like I came home, I was like, what did I order that was this big? And I open it up and it's just like this little tiny box floating around in this giant box. So Yeah, Pokemon Center does some weird stuff sometimes.
Yeah, because I think I ordered like one time to get like the the special delivery Pikachu. I ordered like a 3-pack blister, or a couple 3-pack blisters or something, and they shipped it in a big box with like one single little air thing in there, like one, not enough to fill
Yeah,
up the
yeah.
space, just one. And then the promo just thrown in. So it was all beat the hell up. And so I learned to only basically use plushies, and I only order plushies from Pokemon Center when I want the promos because at least they're soft and maybe that'll like not bang it up so bad. But
So, Pokesnipe said, should you buy 4 separate orders of 1 instead of getting a case? And if so, will that give you 4 promos? If you buy 4, you'll get 4 promos.
yeah, I think
It's
it's
the
for
same as
every
the like the
purchase.
UPCs. If you buy 4 UPCs, it increases those promos to 4 promos. It's not like 1 per order. It's
But
1
that being
per.
said, I don't know if that being said, if that's the case with UPCs, if you're ordering like 6 booster bundles, you're not going to get like 6 Squirtle promos. You know what I
I
mean?
I don't know. Like I'm looking, my pre-order for Pokemon Center did include the 4 promos with the 4 UPCs. So
That's interesting. So
yeah,
that is one of those nuanced questions that we're gonna have to see how it plays
yeah.
out. I think hopefully
But
Pokemon Center will come out with a clarification. Um, because there's gonna be a lot of unhappy people if they ordered like if they wanted the Squirtle promo, but they didn't order a UPC and they got a Pokemon Center whatever or whatever they were UP or the booster bundles or maybe a binder collection or something. I don't even know what's up on the Pokemon Center right now, to be honest. So I couldn't even tell you, but
yeah. Hey, I gotta go use the bathroom. Are you good to talk for like 15, 20 more minutes? Because I want to keep going. I don't want to end the
yeah,
live just
let me
yet.
pull up the YouTube chat though, because I am really bad with chat and I didn't have it pulled up here. So let me just pull it up real quick.
Yeah, I gotta go take a piss and I gotta grab another high noon. But I'm enjoying this chat. I want to keep it going. I don't want to end it right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But no,
I
there's
got the
a
chat going, so I can talk to him. Go take a little break. What's up, chat? How we doing today? How you guys
yeah,
doing?
you can
Sorry,
let them know. Tell them first. I mean, here's a good story you could tell people. For a lot of people out there, you may not know. Like I'm pretty harsh on Whatnot, but Josh was one of the very few people on Whatnot that I actually like vouched for. Said you can buy from this person. Like he's not going to scam you, but you did go through that departure now from Whatnot. I don't know if that's something you want to talk about or not, or because I know you've talked about that a lot on your channel, but I don't think you've ever talked about on my channel.
yeah, it's one of those
Uh,
things that
I'll be
like
right back.
I put out a video about. So yeah, so chat, if you guys want to hear the story, I'll tell a little bit of the story here about it because I think it is something that's interesting to talk about. And I put out a video on my channel, so if you want to hear a bit of a more long form topic about why I left Whatnot, you can go there. But yeah, I left Whatnot. What was it? 3, 4, 5 months ago now, mostly because I was unhappy with how the platform was sort of not the platform itself, but how people on my peers on the platform were behaving. And I started getting a lot of people who would associate me specifically with Whatnot more than they'd associate me with, say, YouTube or Instagram or other platforms. And so after going and basically interacting with the hobby at Orlando Collecticon and really talking with a lot of people and getting the vibe for how the hobby was feeling about the platform as a whole, I already kind of decided a while ago that I'd move a lot of my inventory to sort of eBay and move platforms before I made the formal announcement, but it really drove it home after talking to a lot of people in the hobby about just how they were feeling about the nature of the platform as of late. And so I stepped away from it, not because of anything in particular that happened or me. I don't think that other people should do what I did, and I wasn't trying to do it to like make a statement that I thought that it was bad or anything. So I think that there's maybe a misconception about that. It's just it became a part of my channel's identity when I didn't want it to be, and so I stepped away. And so like I guess talking about it is interesting now looking back because I've been away from it for so long. I'm not even updated with the new current app, so I don't even know what it looks like these days. But it just feels like the live streaming platforms are so beneficial or could be so beneficial to the hobby in so many ways that I felt like when I was a part of it in the early days, it felt like a really good thing to be a part of. And I felt like it was like an innovative new platform. But in the later part of before I left, and maybe even now, maybe it's changed. I don't know. I haven't been on in a while. It stopped feeling that way. And so it wasn't necessarily that I'm against live streaming platforms. I think that they're very cool and innovative. And I honestly think that it's one of the best ways to like interact with a hobby and like sell something, a collectible that you have to see in real time and still entertain. And it's really, but it just it leaves so much room for toxicity and all of like the carnival games and the unregulated like just bounties and all the mystery whatever and the all the stuff that was happening that wasn't what I really liked about the live streaming platform, which was like the technology side, the innovative side, the ability to actually interact with your community, build a community, and like be entertaining and sell things in real time. That was all there, but it came with this baggage of like these like weird, it just felt wrong. Like it felt like the sellers on the platform, my peers, weren't people that I personally wanted to be a part of. So like me leaving the platform, I wasn't trying to like say that other people should. It was just a personal thing. And it's all my ethics and morals have always held me back in a lot of ways. And so like it felt like in order to really grow and whatnot, I would have had to have done things that would have compromised what I believed were my ethic, the limits I was willing to go to. I wasn't willing to push those limits like I was seeing a lot of my peers doing. And it felt like the platform was also sort of allowing it and maybe not pushing for it, but certainly not punishing those who are doing the worst things. And so that's why I mainly stepped away. So like that was really long form already, but if you want to hear like the fresh
You
take.
miss it though? Do you miss it? Because I know that, and I think something to really put into perspective for a lot of people out there, like you went full time Pokemon, like this was your job, and I mean that's got to be big for you, right? You're gonna now cut out a huge revenue stream for you. I
I,
mean, do you miss it? Not just
I miss
and I
it,
know you had
yes.
mentioned you started to like create a community too, or people that would like frequent your live streams and stuff. Do you miss it? And I know you mentioned like you're moving to a new platform and stuff like this. So
Yeah, so the worst part about it is I do miss it. Like, and so like I really liked the community of people that I sold to. Like, I know that using that word community, I completely agree. It's such a buzzword in this hobby. It's really it's dumb that I feel like it's when someone uses that word, it's often misused to like justify maybe scummier things that shouldn't be being done. So like I miss I will say this with a straight face. I miss my community. Like there were people that I sold to that I would consider like regular followers, regular purchasers who I would consider friends, you know, who when I stepped away from the platform, we still interacted on like Instagram very lightly, but it wasn't anything like before. And so like I had 12,000 followers. I streamed 5 times a week typically for like 3 to 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. Sometimes it was going well. Like I do miss it. So like I don't want it to come like that's the thing. Like I loved what Whatnot was trying to do and what they've sort of accomplished to do on the backside, like with the app that they made and the ease of use for the user interface, and like the updates they constantly roll out, and like the marketing they do, and like it really does feel like they're doing a lot of things I really like, but there's just so much that I didn't like that went along with it. The baggage that I kind of was like, even though I miss it, I honestly do, and I haven't said that out loud, like especially not in a live stream with 100 other people who probably are waiting for me to be like, yeah, he misses Whatnot, he's gonna go back. And like, would I go back to Whatnot again? Absolutely. But it would take like such a revamp of what was there currently for me to feel comfortable Like, because like I like the live streaming. I love it. I just really want to be able to do it in a way that doesn't feel like you're in Tatooine, you
Yeah,
know,
doing carnival, it
you're in a
turned into the
wretched hive
carnival
of
games
scum
and
of
stuff.
villainy. It's like I don't like to feel that way with a certain like so like I am moving to another platform, to a new platform that it's not Drip, because I feel like Drip has a lot of the same problems that Whatnot has, and I see the same sort of issues there. Um, because I do miss like the community that I had. And like it's not that like I feel like people need to see me ripping packs or anything, but I enjoyed going live and streaming, and I had viewers who I think enjoyed it as well. At least I know they did from how much and how long they supported me for. And it's just I will probably go back to streaming eventually when I feel like there's a platform that is something that I can feel comfortable, that both myself and my buyers should feel safe on. Because like I know that a buyer would come to my stream and be safe, because like someone in the chat is probably going to say like, why would you care what other people are doing on the platform? If you're an honest seller, all you have to do is be an honest seller to keep selling on the platform, and let all those other dishonest sellers get taken off and clicked out and rattled and whatever it is. But that's not how it works. That's not how it is. If you're an honest seller on a platform full of dishonest sellers, sure, the people who know you're an honest seller, who are listening 2 hours into a live stream, who got the PK recommendation, who said, yeah, this guy's cool, he's not going to scam you, those people maybe know they can buy from you. But what about the person who just downloaded the app, they just got into the hobby because in Walmart they bought a pack. They don't want to buy a pack at Walmart because they don't want to go to their local store. So instead they download Whatnot. What happens when they end up in not my stream, but the backpack streamer who's already resealed, who's already gotten the blister pack and glued it and taken the hit out? They're running a crazy bounty, and they get into that stream. Well, most likely that person is just going to get scammed out of their $10, and they're going to go on their happy way, and they're not going to know they were scammed. And that streamer is going to run away with their money and do it to 100 other people. And then one person's going to find out, and they're going to get called out, and they're going to get refunded, then banned for a week on the platform. Then that seller will be selling again. That's most likely the realistic sense of events that'll happen. But like, imagine that person does get scammed for $10 on their very first purchase on a new platform they just got into, and they find out that that person took them for a ride. They're going to feel so burned about that. They're not likely going to go back and find an honest seller on the platform to then go and buy from a second time. They're not going to go to your platform again. So I worry about a platform who really doesn't care as much about the sellers on the platform and vetting them, because it seems to me like that says you don't care about your buyers as much, and you should care about your buyers more than your sellers, I think, as a platform, and keeping those buyers addicted to buying more in the long term. And so, because if that person gets scammed once, they're not going to buy 10 more times, and you're not going to get 10% of every one of those purchases. They're going to be out of the hobby and they're gone forever. And so, to me, as someone who wants to be here for 10, 20, 30 more years, I personally couldn't be a part of that platform, because that is a real possibility on Whatnot right now. You can go and get scammed, and literally it could be 69 streams going, and 50 of those 69 might be cool, but 19 of them aren't.
Uh,
So
Josh, I will tell you right now. Well, first, real quick, I want to give a shout out to Son of a Mewtwo for the super chat. He said just supporting the channel. Appreciate you, Son of Mewtwo. And I appreciate he's been chatting a lot in the most recent lives, and I appreciate a lot of his comments. But I do want to just say one thing. I don't usually title videos very well. I titled this video perfectly with a huge warning: rants with the old card shop. And Josh, you are one of the best for rants. But I've seen a lot of people. I mean, obviously you talked about Whatnot, but a lot of people here are talking about eBay Live. And I know like Nick Old School Pokemon has really been going real deep into the eBay Live. And I think he's really talked about it, that he wants eBay Live to be a big part of his business in the future. Do you see eBay Live being like a possibility for you in the future, or is it just a problem of eBay Live is by invite only right now. So it's not like just anybody could live stream on eBay Live. Do you see eBay Live being a potential like candidate? Because from everything I've heard so far, it does not appear that eBay is doing any of those like all the problems you had with whatnot seem to be eradicated with eBay Live. I'm just curious your thoughts on just eBay Live in general. And would you ever consider it?
So I personally like the fact that it's right now invite only. That was what I enjoyed about the earlier days of Whatnot. And to be fair, the early days of Whatnot, there weren't like they didn't have rules on crazy carnival games and shit because it was only happening on small occasions, and when it was happening, typically I will be honest, it was happening bad, and that's where those are the streams you didn't want to find yourself in. And so in the early days of Whatnot, it felt like the wild, wild west before they implemented their like rules and regulations on what you were allowed to do, bounties and duck races. The first thing they eliminated were duck races. That was the very first thing they set like regulations on because people were buying into these big 500 slot. Basically, people were just throwing money at streamers for X amount of spots in a duck race, and the only person who's getting sent something was the one person who won the race, and nobody else is getting sent anything. And so many people had a problem with that they literally had that was their very first terms of service that they had to like change about Whatnot. I remember. But personally, I like the breaks. That was when it was good, when they still had breaks on. And I see the same thing with eBay Live. There aren't enough sellers on it, and they're being so selective with their sellers, they're not going to run into any problems like that. Here's where the problems may arise for eBay Live. Once it gets out of the beta stage and they start allowing any seller with X amount of feedback to start doing the lives, even if it's 100, 1,000, whatever it is, there's going to leave the possibility for offenders to come in. And who's like, you're not at eBay's headquarters. You're not with, there's not an eBay dude in a suit with like a big baton right behind you who's going to bonk you on the head if you spin a bounty or something. What's stopping old school Pokemon besides the fact that he's a stand-up guy with great morals from running a spin wheel, a bounty, a crazy whatnot, rip and dip scam? Like literally what's stopping anyone? The only thing that's stopping it is the platform picking and choosing its sellers and essentially curating who its sellers are. So as long as eBay Live keeps the fact that it's being very selective with its lives, and it does so in such a way that it slowly onboards sellers and really keeps track of them, I could see it going very well. And I think that a company like eBay has a lot of incentive as a big company to do the safe thing and go that route and really slowly onboard. But like what I saw with a small startup like Whatnot, what I saw happen there, and this isn't me speaking because I'm not associated with the company, I just worked with them for a long time by streaming, but I saw the massive growth that happened, and it was very slow going at first. I spoke with Grant, the owner, CEO of Whatnot, on the phone for my onboarding for about 30 minutes in traffic in LA while he was going to his office. And that was how he grilled me on distribution, how long I'd been in the hobby, where I sold before, my experience, all this stuff. He cared. But I hear now they have these onboarding things where there's like 50 people. And it just, if eBay Live becomes anything like that, where they literally allow anyone to sell, it will become potentially the same problem that we see on any of these other platforms. And that's what I had a problem with Drip at this.
I don't think eBay makes that mistake though. Personally, I think
don't
eBay.
Yeah,
I think because you know what, you get to use whatnot as the canary in the coal mine in this situation, right? Like you have a proof of concept of what not to do, and eBay is a big company. There's some really smart people making those decisions, and I think they're looking at everything, all the complaints about these other platforms. Are saying, okay, these are the things we should not do. These are the sellers we should not allow on. And I do hope like eBay reaches out to people like you and stuff, and people that are very reputable and are going to be able to like, and eBay's smart. They want to grow their business in a way that is going to be beneficial for them for the future, because Nothing eBay is doing right now or has ever done is for the short term or the near term. All eBay's plans that they roll out, we're talking big brain, long term type thing like authenticity guarantee, eBay Vault. You know, these things are all very much in their infancy right now. We're just scratching the surface. That's why, like, eBay Vault, all the dollar amounts are super high right now. They're still working out just titles of listings and stuff. All this is very, very calculated decisions. Like, there'll come a day when they'll hopefully become like a PWCC where you could submit everything to that vault, or at least maybe lower value cards and stuff. But like, eBay's doing stuff in the background, like, and if you look at what their total volume of profit is from trading cards, it is a preposterous amount of money for their overall business. Like, they are highly, highly, heavily investing in trading cards and all this stuff.
Well, they
So
bought TCG Player. You're aware that they were the ones who bought the TCG Player
yeah,
platform.
I'm very bullish on eBay right now. Like, and Nick Old School Pokemon, he's a smart person, man. Like, he's one of the smartest people in the room at any given moment. He is very well aware of what's going on and all the things I just said. Nick is very well aware of all those facts, and that is why he's going so heavily into this, because he sees the future of what that platform can be. And it's crazy to say that, because to think of eBay as still just like growing and like all the potential that is in eBay sounds crazy for how long they've been around. But yeah, dude.
It's funny because eBay to me is like the most boomer of
Yep.
all of the platforms, and yet it's the one that I've become more bullish on than all the others. Because, like, if you would have talked to me in the early days of Whatnot, before we had all this craziness that we see now, that I don't want, there was definitely craziness that was on the platform. I don't want to romanticize the early days of Whatnot like there wasn't some craziness, because there certainly was. But like, back then, if I would have, you would have asked me what I thought the trajectory of the app was, and like, I would have thought they would have went the safer route and really safely grown their sellers, because like I said, I personally think you would want more people with your app interacting for the longer amount of time to really hammer in that safe platform. Like, if you're going to spend the extra 10-15% or whatever fees are, like, you really need to hammer in that safety for the buyer, safety for the buyer, safety for the buyer, and sure, safety for the seller too. But once
So
again, safety. And
so that goes into, there's a bunch of good questions in the chat right now, but two I want to read real quick is Pokey Snipe says he's not too knowledgeable about the invitation requirements, but he's assuming they are more for known sellers. Do you think that will make it harder for the little guy? Which I think that's a valid concern. Like, only the big guys ever get the invites. The little guys, what do you have to do? Like, is there is there a finish line? Meaning, what does a little guy have to do to eventually be reputable enough to sell? I think that's a valid concern. And then another one that Legend of Luke said is it possible that we hold Whatnot to a higher standard than eBay just because Whatnot is a startup? There are plenty of scammers and shady things that go on eBay. So yeah, Legend of Luke is very correct in that. Like, eBay is not this, you know, sunshines and rainbows type platform where nothing possibly ever goes wrong. Like, but I think that's also a valid comment. Like,
yeah, I think that what he said is very valid. I think that there are certain times where it's sort of glanced over the fact that on eBay there are bad sellers, just like there are bad sellers on every platform. I think there's a slight difference in between eBay and a platform like Whatnot, though, and something like maybe the smaller streaming platforms like Drip, or like Network, which is the new one that I'll be starting on soon. I didn't mention it earlier, but Network's another one that's out there, a smaller one. So I think that those platforms are a little bit different than eBay, because literally anyone can sign up for eBay. There is zero vetting, zero vetting. Whereas with an app like one of those potential newer startups, there is the smallest amount of vetting that the app has to do, even if it's just getting the sign up information, to pay you out for the money that you collect on their app. They have to at least get your address, at least get your payout information. And so with that sort of information exchange, and with them then vouching for you as a seller on their platform, it would feel very irresponsible of any startup or any company to essentially say that the sellers, they're not responsible for their sellers, because eBay seems like a somewhat of a exception, because literally anyone can sign up with almost nothing. What do you have to have an eBay account? You don't even have to put in your payment information before, right? Because I feel
Yeah,
like,
I just started a new eBay account relatively recently, or at least I started it like a while ago, but just for this channel. Like we
yeah,
talked about this before this live, that I want to try the I want to grow. Like I don't want to be stagnant, and one of the things I need to grow is to like make my eBay store like public. So my goal is with this new eBay stores. Right now I got 0 listings, but uh if you look down in the description of below for this video, anybody watching this, you'll see a link to my new eBay store. And my goal is to start like showing my plays, which is something that's been really a struggle for me, Josh. But I'm going to start it off with 50 cards. And the 50 cards are going to be the very obvious ones. They're going to be all the plays I've talked about in the past. They're going to be old maid cards. They're going to be Uno cards. They're going to be on the ball Pikachu cards. Anything that I've kind of talked about, I'm going to try to like seed those initial 50 cards with those plays that I've made very public, talked about on 100 different lives. And then I'm going to do like 5 listings a day, the same way as I do all my other eBay accounts, to like keep that algorithm happy. I know a lot of people use the number 10. I'm not going to do 10. I'm going to do 5 a day, because one, I got to keep my inventory like available to keep doing those, but then I'm just going to keep doing it until eventually I could grow like that eBay store. And that's like a new goal I have.
that being said, though, you really don't need much to start an eBay, do you? Because
No.
I'm pretty sure when I started my new eBay, I didn't buy anything on that account for like several weeks after I started it. And when I finally did buy something, I had to put in my card and all that stuff. And it blew my mind that I had the account for like, and I was getting payouts as a seller because I was selling things, but I didn't have to put my card in when I made the account. So like, yeah, so you on eBay, you don't need very much to start up, but at the same time on eBay, they're very quick to ban. They will ban you. They will hit you with a warning if you fuck up, or excuse me, if you mess up, or they will very quickly lower your limits, and you're
Oh yeah.
also limited on what you're allowed to sell as a new
Oh, I
account.
didn't really think of, you know what? I never considered I didn't consider that. I'm going to have selling limits as a new account.
Yeah, you're only going to be allowed to sell like a certain amount. I think it's like $1,000 or something until you
Oh, I
prove to
didn't think
them.
about that. Oh crap. That kind of changes a lot,
Oh,
doesn't it?
dude, I so recently when I stopped Whatnot, a month
Hmm.
after I stopped Whatnot and I was on my new eBay, my old eBay, a weird thing happened with my eBay account, and I got hit with a below standard or below average like seller report for the month. And so I went through and I contacted eBay and I tried to get it removed. And long story short, they wouldn't do anything about it because it was from a transaction, me canceling an auction that didn't get paid for before the 4-day limit came up from like months before. So it put a ding on my account. And so they were charging me an extra 6% in fees. So I was like, screw that. And I started a new account. I very quickly realized that my selling limits on my old account were a huge benefit,
Oh
because my
yeah.
new account, I had to very slowly build up for like a month. Like I had to
Oh, I
sell,
didn't even think about that, Josh. Oh, what
yeah,
have I done?
you just have to sell lower
I guess
cost
I could do it.
items in the
Yeah.
beginning and run some
That's
auctions.
going to change what I list for those
No,
first
just
50
run some
cards.
auctions. You'll get some feedback from some auctions.
Yeah.
That'll help.
Mm,
You'll be fine. You'll be good. I believe
yeah.
it. I like your idea of starting the public eBay. I maybe will start following my first eBay account on my eBay.
You
So
don't follow any eBay accounts?
no,
Oh,
I
dude,
don't
you gotta
follow
follow
sellers.
you. Listen, that's one of the best advice I give anybody, especially those Japanese sellers, especially those Chinese sellers. Oh, if they're selling raw cards, man, those are the people you want to follow. Or
I don't
I'm
follow them on eBay, but I have accounts that I like will check back on, but I just type in their
oh,
name.
follow them. I'm telling you, follow them. It's one
On
of
my
the
Whatnot account, I had I followed 0 other sellers also up until the day that I was, I left. I never followed a single other person on the,
wow.
I don't know. I've always been weird about like, I never partner with people. I never like follow other people. I'm so weird about like willing to like, I don't know, my risk tolerance, I guess. I don't know. So, I just don't follow sellers. I don't follow anyone. I'm a weirdo.
Yeah. But tell everybody the new eBay name you have, because it's absolutely I mean, you did some ballsy eBay naming.
All right. So my old account was the old card shop, right? And I am always, always I have to do things the most ridiculous way possible. And so my new eBay account, I wanted to have a little fun with. And so I tested. I want to see if people would still buy from me if my name was selling bags. And so I titled my new eBay account, if anyone wants to follow me. It has my logo, the old card shop, my official logo on as the picture, but my name of the account, and then shout out to Pokemon Radar. He kind of he inspired me with his eBay name, Selling Yesterday. I always thought that was a hilarious eBay name to have. And so I was just thinking, like, I think if I made an eBay account named Selling Bags and people still bought from it, like at the same rate and everything, it would be the most bullish possible name I could make in the hobby.
Selling bags.
And so
Where'd you buy
my
your
main
card
eBay
from?
account
Oh, I
is
bought it
Selling
from Selling
Bags.
Bags.
Yeah, just selling bags, just as it's named, as it's spelled the same way. So I mean, people buy from me. I get better sales on this new eBay than I did on my last one, because the last one the algorithm is getting railroaded by my bad seller report from those canceled auctions way back when. So I'm loving the new eBay. I'm loving the new name. Not a single person has said, "Hey, I am not buying from you because of your stupid name." The way I see it is this: eBay is a very simple way to succeed. The and this is how you succeed on eBay. You sell something that somebody wants for the lowest price on eBay. That's all. It's not that hard to succeed. It's just
That's pretty simple, yeah.
sell something that somebody wants. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be shoes. It could be this lightsaber that's right there in the background. It could be that picture from Red and Fire Red Leaf Green. Anything. And if you don't know what it's worth, look it up or make up a number and try to sell it. Lower that number until it sells. Trust me, eventually everything has a number it will sell for. And so that's all eBay is. So like people aren't like going and saying, who has the coolest name? This guy, like his name is, I'm a power seller 42069 and I'm gonna buy from him because he's got a big car and like a suit on. Like nobody gives a shit about that. If you're the lowest priced and you have good feedback, people will buy from you. And I have 100% feedback. I've sold many items on my new account, and it's just a funny name. And it's just nobody cares about the name. Honestly, people don't even know about the name until they go to try to look me up and they laugh about it. It's so funny.
Selling bags.
Yep, so I'm selling bags. Anyone who's followed my account for a long time or known me for a long time knows it's a long-standing joke. The whole bags thing, that was one of the inflection points in the hobby for me, back in the ETB craze of early 2020, late 2020, early 2021, when everyone was stonking on ETBs. I think I was very quickly to call them just bags shaped like boxes, and that's where I still stand with them.
But yeah, Josh, we managed to make this live go for a little over 2 hours, man. Dude, I appreciate you. I think
I appreciate you, man. Like you were right. When you reached out to me, I was raring to go. I was ready to do a nice little live. I had 3 or 4 YouTube thumbnails in my thumbnail bank that I just didn't make videos on over the course of the last week because I didn't know how it was going to come across, and it was just going to be me turning on the camera and ranting about one of the videos I was going to put out a $6.9 million bounty. Like I was going to put out my own bounty. I was going to make it in a dollar store and be like, what, you don't think I got the money for this? And like go buy something at the checkout register. It's going to be a ridiculous video. Luckily, I didn't have to make that though because it got pulled. But I'm glad you had me on. Thank you. I appreciate it. It gave me
man. And for everybody out there watching, we still have 100 viewers watching this. Down in the description below is a link to the Old Card Shop's YouTube channel. So he has his own podcast called Cardboard Hands. It's him, Retrospecs, and Flex God. They co-host a podcast. The most recent podcast, Flex God was not available. He was not able to join. So I was one of the guests for that video. So if you guys enjoy long form content, if you enjoy this type of content, I highly recommend you checking out the Cardboard Hand podcast. And if you are watching this channel, hopefully you like me, you don't hate me, but I was also, like I said, on that. So definitely check that out. And then Old Card Shop also has a very cool series called Collector Spotlight. And again, I was one of the guests on his Collector Spotlight series. So if you're a little bit curious about my backstory in this hobby, me and the Old Card Shop, we really do a deep dive kind of in my backstory of this hobby, because it was more centered focus on me, something that I don't usually get to talk about so much on my channel. But yeah, highly recommend you guys checking out his channel. It is a
I have
great channel.
another one coming too, by the way. I have a trainer spotlight coming that is really exciting. At least for me, it's exciting. So if anyone is out there and you're wondering what some of your favorite creators or collectors in the hobby are like behind the scenes, because most of the time, like PK said, they don't talk about themselves. It comes out in every live every once in a while, a little bit of their backstory comes out.
Breadcrumbs opposed to just here's the
Yeah.
whole loaf for
But
you.
all of that series, I have a series of 10 questions that I ask every single person, and it all just dives into the background of like who they are as a collector or who as a hobbyist. And so definitely check it out. I love that series. And thanks for the shout out, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah,
Man,
man.
PK, you've always been one of my best friends in the hobby, and I greatly appreciate
Oh
you.
yeah.
Honestly, walking up, when I walked up to you at the Leonhardt pop-up shop, I had just driven across the country in my car because I was really afraid of flying. I still am. And I drove because of COVID and flying and all this stuff. I thought it'd be a fun road trip. I had listened to about 3 days worth of your podcasts from driving 3 days across the country to go visit that event. And I'd never listened to you before that, but I just
Oh
found
wow.
you like right before. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. I literally just found your content. I really liked your content. And so I saw you. I was like, I gotta go say hi to this guy. I gotta say hi to PK.
Oh,
And so
that's
I'm
awesome.
really glad I walked up, man.
Yeah, man. No, I definitely consider you one of my best friends in the hobby, man. And no, I'm super grateful and to call you my friend. So, but yeah,
Thanks, man. And best of luck on all these new eBay ventures. If you
yeah,
have
man.
any questions about what's starting a new eBay and how you can actually get those limits increased, you just got to
Yeah,
kind of
I know
break
I can.
down.
I feel like I have to make some phone calls, but I
You have to
that's a
make a
phone
couple
call I just
sales
wasn't planning
first.
on making.
Yeah, and then you make a phone call or two, and you tell them about your old eBay, and then you tell them your new one, and then they'll kind of give you a little bit of maybe a
Yeah.
little bit of a leeway.
But yeah, for everybody out there watching, like I said, go check out Josh's channel. It's great content. But more importantly than that, I know I could speak for myself. I know I could speak for Josh. Everybody out there watching this, guys, we also appreciate every single one of you guys. You are one of the reasons we make these videos. We wouldn't be doing these 2 hour long lives if it wasn't for you. But with that said, as always, we'll catch you on the next.